to him. As soon as Hyuni spoke, Wu Shihan grabbed her neck. His hand was very strong. In just a moment, Hyuni felt difficulty breathing and couldn't say a word. Let go. Hand over the hidden weapon in your hand first, otherwise I will break her neck directly. After the words fell, Wu Shihan's men exerted force, and Hyuni's face began to turn blue and purple, and she was about to faint. Shang Ruai whispered, "The hidden weapon is for you. Let her go." After the words fell, she threw the gun in her hand directly to the ground. Seeing this, the Biling soldiers hurriedly picked it up. Wu Shihan saw that she had no support in her hand, so he thought he could control them at will. He loosened his hand that was pinching Hyuni's neck, but did not put down the dagger in his other hand. "Bring out all the gold, silver, and jewelry in your house to me." Lin Mu curled his lips. "Just now you said we were bandits and a mob, and now you start robbing. What is that?" Shang Ruai smiled. "Isn't it just silver? I have as much as you want. Release the people, and everything will be fine." "Ha ha ha, release the people?" Wu Shihan couldn't help laughing. "I forgot to say that I have another request, which is to let this delicate and tender young lady in your family be my maid." Upon hearing this, Shang Ruai could no longer suppress the murderous intent that she had been hiding. "Looking for death. Looking for death? Ha 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 ha," Wu Shihan sneered. "Now that this hidden weapon has been confiscated by me, let's see what else you can do." "Really?" Shang Ruai flipped his palm, and a black pistol that was even bigger than the one before appeared in his palm. Without giving anyone time to react, he shot him in the wrist holding the dagger. The moment the dagger fell to the ground, He Jinghung flew forward and kicked Wu Shihan in the chest. His body flew backwards, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground. Seeing that Hyuni was not seriously injured, Shang Ruai's heart was slightly relieved. Shang Ruai's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Looking at the Biling soldiers, she smiled coldly. The barbarians of Biling first slaughtered innocent people in the village. Even babies in swaddling clothes were not spared. Later, they came to the He family to burn, kill, and loot. They really regarded human life as worthless and thought that we could bully them at will. Shang Ruai stepped forward. "For things like you who are not worthy of being human, it is a blessing for you to fall into the animal path in the next life. But I don't want to kill in front of this mansion. Get out of here."
"What?
Just let them go?" The Biling people were overjoyed when they heard this. They didn't even pick up the weapons on the ground, but turned around and ran away.
"Wait.
Wait for me." Heelin Yun got up from the ground, but at this time they were all running for their lives, and no one paid any attention to him. After running about 100 meters, Shang Ruai took out a few grenades from her arms and handed them to He Jinghung. "Would you like to try the hidden weapons I developed?" He Jinghung took the grenades and saw her pull the fuse and throw the grenades directly out. 100 meters away, the grenade fell to the ground and exploded. The grenade landed right on the Biling soldiers. He Jinghung also threw the grenade in his hand out. After a few loud noises, the Biling soldiers who had just been released were basically killed. He Jinghung looked at such a powerful firearm, and a light flashed in his eyes. "A poisonous woman." He Lan said angrily. "Poisonous woman. Didn't you promise to let them go?" "Haha, leave. I just said I don't want to kill people in front of the He family's door. Now they're already 100 meters away. What's wrong with me doing this?" The smile on her face suddenly disappeared, staring at him and said word by word, "I also want you to know that if you offend my He family, you will be punished no matter how far away you are." He Lan was frightened by her aura and couldn't help feeling frightened. The eyes of this woman were even sharper and more fierce than the vultures they trained. It was really frightening. He Jinghung looked at the flames rising to the sky in the distance. His eyes narrowed slightly. Firearms are popular in all countries, but the bombs they made with saltpeter are not only weak in power but also difficult to store, and even improper handling can cause explosions. After suffering a few losses, they no longer use firearms on the battlefield. If they are lucky, they can win a battle. If they are unlucky, their camp will be blown up before the enemy attacks. However, the firearms in her hand are completely different from those they used before. Heelin Yin looked at the smoke billowing in the distance, and the light in his eyes dimmed. It's over, it's all over. The soldiers he brought were wiped out. The next moment, several figures stood up from the smoke, supporting each other and walking away. At this moment, a group of people in black robes appeared, waving their long swords directly, and beheaded the Biling soldiers who survived by chance in front of them. Lu Qin brought the brothers from Yunxue village and quickly came to Shang Ruoi. Master. Shang Ruoi looked at their messy appearance and said in a deep voice, "What happened?" "Master, we heard the noise down the mountain and wanted to go down the mountain to support, but we were ambushed halfway down the mountain." He gritted his teeth and suppressed the anger in his voice. That group of people were very skilled and killed many of our brothers. Later, the noise down the mountain became louder and louder. I don't know what instructions those people got, and flew away. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would all die there. Shang Ruoi's heart sank when she heard this. It seems that there are too many people who want to wipe out the Dinghua Palace. She came to Heilin Yun and kicked his injured knee, causing him to scream in pain. Your people are actually setting an ambush on the way? Heilin Yun was sweating in pain and rolled over with his knees in his arms. What ambush? Didn't you up all my brothers? It was already at this point. There was no need for him to lie. Shang Ruoi knew it in her heart. She waved her hand and said to the secret guards beside her, "Watch them carefully." Heilin Yun was only injured in the knee. Wu Shihan was seriously injured, but still alive. After imprisoning the two of them, He Jingheng and Shang Ruoi came to the backyard, where the old princess and others were waiting. Seeing that the two people came in, they finally let go of their worries.
Hang up, you lay back.
Qin rushed over, tears streaming down her face. Those thieves just now. Before she finished speaking, she suddenly found that He Jingheng was standing at this time. She said in shock, "Hang your legs." Everyone's eyes fell on He Jingheng. "Brother, are your legs healed?" He Jingheng smiled and glanced at Shang Ruoi behind him. Thanks to the treatment of the miracle doctor, both legs are now healed. Qin followed his gaze and fell on Shang Ruoi, and she suddenly realized. It seemed that the miracle doctor his son was talking about was his daughter-in-law.
Ruoi.
Mom, it's getting late today and everyone is exhausted. You should go back to your room and rest quickly. Where's Yuni? Have you seen Yuni? Qin said anxiously. Just now Jingxi ran out to kill the enemy, and Yuni followed him out of concern. Who knew that Jingxi came back, but Yuni is still missing. Shang Ruoi comforted. Mom, don't worry, I have saved Yuni. She just suffered some skin injuries, and is not seriously injured. Hearing Shang Ruoi's words, Qin's heart was completely relieved. Now she only has this pair of children. If something goes wrong, she really can't survive. Jingheng, what was that horrifying fire outside just now? The old princess still has lingering fears. The women of Dinghua Palace are much stronger than those of other palaces, but they have never seen such a horrible scene. After all, they are women in the boudoir, unlike those men fighting on the battlefield. Even the secret guards like Yunqi, who have been with He Jingheng through thick and thin, were shocked when they suddenly saw the firearms thrown by Shang Ruoi, let alone these women. Grandma, don't worry, this is the firearm developed by Ruoi. Thanks to her, otherwise it would be difficult to get away today. Hearing this, the old princess said to Shang Ruoi, Child, thank you very much today. You saved our He family. Grandma, we are a family, there is no need to be so formal. At this time, Yunqi walked forward, holding a child in his arms. Everyone was stunned when they saw this. Jingheng, this child. The old princess hesitated to speak. She looked at He Jingheng and saw him hanging his head. Her heart sank. Could it be that this child was his illegitimate child outside? Thinking of this possibility, the old princess couldn't help but get angry. For the first time in her life, she picked up the crutch next to her and was about to hit He Jingheng. Everyone was shocked to see this. You know, He Jingheng has been the eyes of everyone in Dinghua Palace since he was born. Whenever the old princess mentioned her grandson, her face was full of pride. What happened? What made her use the crutch? Unfilial son. How could you do such a thing? Are you worthy of Ruoi? Are you worthy of the ancestors of the He family? The old princess said angrily.
Grandma.
Shang Ruai took the child and said with a smile, "Grandma, you misunderstood. We picked it up." Picked it up? The old princess looked at the child's face. At this time, she was staring with big eyes and looking around curiously. "Oh, this child is so cute and well-behaved." Lin smiled and said, "Don't cry or make a fuss. There has been no child of this age in Dingwa Palace for many years." Everyone gathered around. Even Song Fengji looked over curiously and then touched her bulging belly. "The child in my belly must be so cute after it is born." Her eyes were full of love for the child who is about to be born. Shang Ruai originally wanted to give the child to Qin to raise, but Qin's body had not recovered after her last illness, and everyone found that the baby would not cry and make a fuss only in Shang Ruai's arms. She had no choice but to take it back to the yard. When everyone dispersed, it was already late at night. Shang Ruai treated the wounds of Hiyuni and Yuntian and distributed a lot of pills. She returned to the room, feeling very tired. He Jingheng sat at the desk, his eyes fixed on the book, but he did not turn a page for a long time. The firearms thrown by Shang Ruai and the extremely small black hidden weapon in her hand kept flashing before his eyes. That was clearly another kind of firearm, one that could be held in the hand and had extremely strong lethality, several times more powerful than hidden weapons. Where did she get it from? Shang Ruai looked at the book in his hand and couldn't help laughing. "I didn't expect that the prince had the habit of reading books upside down." He Jingheng came back to his senses and found that the book in his hand was actually upside down. He was stunned for a moment, couldn't help but smile, and put the book down. "But are you thinking about the hidden weapon I gave you today?" He Jingheng was not embarrassed when his thoughts were exposed by her. "I just think my wife is very amazing. She can actually develop firearms. Could it be that this is also taught by my mother-in-law?" Shang Ruai knew that He Jingheng never believed the words she said before. She smiled. "The saint said, it's rare to be confused. Why do you live so smart all day long? Asking questions like the gossip woman in the village." He Jingheng smiled and shook his head. "My wife is right. It's rare to be confused." As soon as he finished speaking, a delicate and small hidden weapon was placed on his table. "This thing is called a fire gun." Fire gun? He looked at the fire gun on the table, but didn't pick it up. He remembered that the front end of this thing could spray fire. According to his previous experience of using firearms, it would be safer for him not to touch it easily. "Do you want to try?" He Jingheng whispered. "It's late at night now, and the sound of the musket is so loud. I'm afraid it will scare Grandma and others." "That's easy. If you want to make no sound, just install a silencer. In this way, there will be no sound." "Firearms, no sound? How is this possible? I have traveled to the 4 countries and have never seen such a sophisticated hidden weapon." He Jingheng looked at her and smiled. "I guess my mother-in-law got it by chance when she followed my grandfather to do business abroad." Shang Ruai couldn't help laughing when she heard it. She never expected that He Jingheng would find such a good excuse for herself. After all, her mother and grandfather are dead. Who can confront her? "What do you think about what happened today, Prince?" Shang Ruai said in a slightly sinking tone. "I think that the Dingwa Palace is being targeted now, or rather it has been targeted a long time ago." "What do you mean?" "Few people know that your leg injury has recovered. Even your grandmother and mother didn't tell you, but it was secretly revealed to the emperor. Don't you think it's strange? There was such a big commotion around the He Mansion today, but not a single official came to support, and someone even intercepted and killed people from Yunshua village on the way. He knows everything. Either this person is extremely powerful and has great magical powers, or there must be spies in our He family." He Jingheng nodded when he heard this. "I think so too. I have sent someone to investigate. It seems that my wife and I are really in sync." Shang Ruai, who was originally serious, had a shy look on her face when she heard him say this. She coughed twice. "I'm tired and want to rest." After she finished speaking, she left without looking up. After Shang Ruai went back, He Jingheng looked at the musket on the table for a long time without coming back to his senses. The next morning, just after dawn, Shang Ruai was awakened by Xiaoyao knocking on the door. Miss, wake up quickly, the government is coming." She was exhausted from the long journey in recent days, and she had just returned home and experienced a fierce battle. The huge physical consumption made her want to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. If it weren't for the support of the space spiritual spring, she would have been exhausted and unconscious. Now, let alone the government. Even if the emperor was here, it would not affect her sleep. Just say I'm not here, let He Jingheng deal with it, I want to sleep. Miss, the son-in-law is already in the front hall, and the official must ask you to go over. Seeing that she didn't respond, Xiaoyao had to push the door in, walked to the bed, and saw that her young lady had fallen asleep long ago. Miss, wake up. After a while, Shang Ruai sat up angrily, her eyes full of murderous intent. Who is the short-lived ghost who came to visit today? Short-lived ghost? That's right. Shang Ruai said angrily. How dare he disturb my rest? I will kill him now. When Shang Ruai came to the main hall, Zhang Wenyu was sitting in the hall drinking tea. He Jingheng sat in the main seat, still sitting in the wheelchair as before. There was also an old man in white standing next to Zhang Wenyu. The old man's eyes were like torches, and he exuded a faint medicinal fragrance. Shang Ruai smelled it when she walked into the main hall. She raised her eyebrows slightly, and her eyes moved away from the old man and fell on Zhang Wenyu. Her tone was not as gentle as before, and there was a sharp look between her eyebrows. I wonder what brings Lord Zhang here? Zhang Wenyu was about to speak when he heard Shang Ruai continue. I guess there are fewer things happening in Qingzhou these days, and Lord Zhang is really free to come to someone else's house, so early. She looked him up and down. I guess Lord Zhang is over 70 years old. He sleeps so little, but I am young after all, and I used to rest at this time. Zhang Wenyu smiled awkwardly when he heard it. Shang Ruai looked at He Jingheng. Why are you getting up so early? She took the blanket from Yunqi's hand and covered his legs. Even if your legs are numb, they can't be so cold. What if you get sick from the cold? Hearing this, He Jingheng just smiled and let her cover his legs without saying a word. Shang Ruai turned her head and looked at Xiaoyao. What are you standing there for? Why don't you go to the kitchen and light a fire to cook? Miss, the cooks haven't gotten up yet. Not to mention the cooks, even the guard dogs. Xiaoyao swallowed the words after looking at Zhang Wenyu, who looked a little unhappy. Don't talk nonsense. Shang Ruai glared at her. How do you put Lord Zhang when you say that? Zhang Wenyu gritted his teeth, knowing that she was doing it on purpose, but he couldn't afford to offend this person, so no matter how unhappy he was, he could only bear it. What is the purpose of Lord Zhang's visit today? Shang Ruai glanced at him and said in a low voice. Zhang Wenyu saw her asking and thought to himself, we are finally getting to the point. I have met a doctor with very high medical skills. He is very good at external injuries. I think the prince has an old leg injury, so I took him to see the prince. Master Zhang, please be careful. Shang Ruai said in a low voice. The Dingwa Palace has been sealed, and there is no prince here. If it is spread out, we will be disobeying the order and will be executed. Zhang Wenyu heard her say this and smiled and said, It doesn't matter. There are only a few of us here, and we will definitely not spread it. As the saying goes, walls have ears. Doesn't Master Zhang understand this principle? She walked to He Jingheng, gathered the blanket on his legs, and said in a reproachful tone, Look at you. You are so old, but you can't even cover yourself with a blanket. She took the opportunity to tap He Jingheng's legs twice. He Jingheng only felt that his leg was pierced by a very fine needle, and the next moment, his right leg felt numb and swollen. His eyes darkened, and he looked at Shang Ruai with a barely perceptible smile in his eyes. Haven't you been taken care of by your wife for so long? You're used to it? Zhang Wenyu looked at the two people interacting and smacked his lips. Did they forget that he was still here? Shang Ruai stood up and looked at the old man in white. The miracle doctor that Mr. Zhang mentioned must be this one. The old man in white stepped forward and said, My medical skills are shallow. If I have offended you, please forgive me. Shang Ruai smiled and said, You are too modest. I believe that he must be very good at medicine since he was recommended by Lord Zhang. She looked at He Jingheng and said, Many doctors have come to see him for his leg, but they always give the same answer. It has been so long, and we no longer have any hope. If you can cure him, you will be a hero of our He family. Hearing Zhang Ruai say this, Zhang Wenyu couldn't help but think about it. Could it be that his leg is really useless? The old man in white stepped forward and bowed to He Jingheng again. Who in the world doesn't know what an excellent man the Prince of Dingwa Palace is? Someone once described him as riding a horse on a slanting bridge, with red sleeves waving all over the building. How many noble ladies in the capital city admired this elegant young man. But now he has ended up in such a miserable end. It was really sad. The old man in white looked at his legs carefully. After a while, he sighed and said in a deep voice, "I'm afraid your legs will never recover." Zhang Wenyu heard this, and a look of understanding flashed across his eyes. It seemed that He Jingheng's legs had not recovered at all. Maybe someone was talking nonsense and deliberately creating panic. In this case, there was no need to worry about it in the future. Zhang Ruai looked at the changing expressions on his face and understood. She remembered the news she had seen in the Yangxin Palace before.
Who was it?
Who was watching them in secret? Zhang Wenyu bowed his hands. I'm really sorry that I can't help you too. We are grateful that Lord Zhang can think of us. It is expected that we can't recover. Zhang Ruai smiled, with a little sarcasm on her face. This is not the most important thing. There is one thing I want to ask you, Lord. What is it? Yesterday our house encountered thieves and made such a big commotion, but no one from the government came to support us. Did Lord Zhang know about it? Zhang Wenyu's expression was very surprised. He had known that Zhang Ruai would ask about this. When the Bailing people entered the territory of Tianshan, they got the news and also received the gold, silver, and jewelry they handed over. Their goal was only the He family, and the He family was a thorn in the emperor's eyes and flesh. He wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible, but there was no suitable crime to eradicate them all. Now someone is willing to catch them all in one fell swoop, so he is naturally willing to do a favor. Yesterday, the fire was soaring into the sky, and the earth was shaking. How could they not know? He deliberately didn't come to support. Not only that, he also detained the newly appointed official who had proposed support in the government office. He originally thought that they would collect their bodies the next day, but they survived such a fierce battle. Instead, the brave and combative Bailing soldiers were repelled. Zhang Wenyu had no idea that the Bailing soldiers were not repelled, but all buried here. To be honest, the Japanese officer is still ill these days. If he hadn't received the report from his subordinates late at night, he would not have known that such a dangerous thing had happened. Zhang Ruai knew that this was just his excuse. Fortunately, nothing serious happened, but those bandits actually had firearms. If we hadn't fought back, we would have lost our lives. Zhang Ruai had a frightened look on her face. He Jingheng couldn't help but laugh when he saw it. She was talking nonsense seriously. I'm afraid only she could do it. The firearm was from Bailing. If He Lin were here, he would definitely curse. If Bailing had so many firearms, it would have swallowed up other countries long ago. Why would it wait until now? This is really a false accusation. There is always a pretext. Zhang Wenyu was shocked. This was the second thing he wanted to ask today. The crisis of firearms is undoubtedly huge. Any country wants to manufacture firearms in large quantities, but no country has succeeded. Now Bailing has made so many firearms first. If we don't take precautions, there will be endless troubles. However, the He family, who can win among so many firearms, seems to be more to be feared than Bailing. Zhang Wenyu came in a hurry and left in a hurry with the doctor. Seeing this, He Jingheng couldn't help laughing. Today I have seen what it means to be eloquent and to confuse right and wrong. Zhang Ruai raised her chin, her face full of unsatisfied expression. She smiled. What's this? I also gave him a big gift. Who asked him to disturb her sweet dreams so early? She was just a slight punishment. On the way back, Zhang Wenyu suddenly felt unwell. His abdomen felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. Beads of sweat the size of beans slid down his forehead, and the old man in white who he had brought to the He family hurriedly checked his pulse. Not long after, The old man frowned and said, "Sir, you have an upset stomach." An upset stomach? How is that possible? Before he could think about it, he felt an even stronger pain, and he just felt that something was about to come out of his body. The next moment, there was a very loud noise, and the old man in white got off the carriage in a panic, covering his nose, looking at the carriage in shock. He had never seen such a stinky in his life. Hearing the report from his subordinates, Zhang Ruai smiled coldly. It's what he deserves. He has almost lost face now. This was the consequence of disturbing her sweet dream. Zhang Wenyu became famous for this, and people would mention this matter when talking about the imperial envoy of Qingzhou. In the courtyard at the edge of the county town, Ling Feng looked at Qian Jinyan standing opposite him, with a sharp look. "Did you do it?" Qian Jinyan lowered his eyes and said nothing. "I'm asking you." Ling Feng narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Without my permission, you dared to mobilize the dead soldiers privately. What crime should you be punished for?" The group of people with extremely high martial arts skills who robbed and killed Lu Qin on the road that day were sent by Qian Jinyan. Qian Jinyan's drooping eyelids slightly lifted, and there was no turbidity in his old eyes. After a while, he whispered, "Young master, have you forgotten what we are doing? We have persisted until today just to see the day when the Dinghua Palace is destroyed. There is such a good opportunity, but the young master did not take action. Is it because of the benevolence and morality that the young master talks about, or is there another reason?" He looked at Ling Feng with a little more inquiry in his eyes. "Another reason?" Ling Feng sneered. "What do you think the reason is?" "The young lady of the He family." Qian Jinyan whispered, "Young master, could it be that you have other thoughts about her?" Ling Feng's pupils shrank slightly, and he couldn't help but angrily said, "Do you think I will have feelings for my enemy who destroyed my clan?" Qian Jinyan didn't say anything. He watched his young master grow up, and he knew his character very well. If he didn't care, he would definitely not hesitate to take action. If it wasn't the young lady of the He family, could it be the prince's consort? "I know you are anxious to take revenge, but if you act privately without my permission, don't blame me for disregarding the years of master-servant relationship." After he finished speaking, he turned and left. Qian Jinyan narrowed his eyes, clenched his fists, and murmured, "Young master, since you can't make up your mind, this old will help you." For a period of time, no one came to trouble the He family again. He Yuni stayed at home after being injured, and the shop in the county town could only be left to Zhang Ruai to manage. As the year was coming to an end, the county was particularly busy. At this time of year, the 4 countries would allow small-scale trade. In the county, you could see novel and small gadgets from various countries. Zhang Ruai came to the shop and was about to leave when she saw a woman in brocade clothes walking in, followed by a group of maids. Miss, please go slowly." The maid behind her reminded, "Be careful." As soon as she finished speaking, the lady she was talking about bumped into someone who had just bought milk tea.
Ouch!
There was only a scream, and the next moment, the brocade-clothed woman was soaked, and the most important thing was that the milk tea had just been made and was very hot. "It's so hot. It's so hot." When Zhang Ruai heard the sound and rushed over, the maid behind her was about to roll up her sleeves.
Stop!
Zhang Ruai shouted loudly, and she stepped forward quickly. "If you take off your clothes at this time, the skin and flesh on your body will fall off."
What?
The maids quickly took their hands down. What should we do now? They had never experienced such things before. They were all at a loss for a moment. "Go to the backyard," Zhang Ruai said loudly. "Take the buckets and go outside to get some snow. If there is ice, bring it in as well." Although they didn't know why she wanted these, they didn't dare to neglect it. They took the containers and hurried outside to collect snow. Fortunately, there was a small but not small snow a few days ago. In addition, the weather was cold, and the snow on the road had not melted yet. There were still icicles on the eaves of many shops. The woman in brocade followed Zhang Ruai to the backyard. She took out the snow and put it in her robe. "What are you doing?" She was so cold that she screamed, "Do you want to freeze me to death? If you don't want to leave scars on your body, shut up." Zhang Ruai's eyes were cold and serious. When she heard that it would leave scars, the woman in brocade was also very scared. Will it leave scars? If you cooperate, maybe not. If you don't, I can't guarantee it. Shang Ruai said in a low voice. Just bear with it. The woman's eyes were red. Please, you must help me. I can't leave scars on my body. I just got engaged. If I leave scars because of this, I will definitely lose this marriage. Shang Ruai kept putting snow into her robe. The woman in brocade clothes was shivering from the cold, and her face was blue and purple. Okay. Shang Ruai nodded. She carefully took off her robe and saw large patches of red on her skin. Fortunately, there was no broken skin. Shang Ruai's heart was slightly relieved. How is it? Will it leave scars? Shang Ruai smiled. Fortunately, I have fulfilled my mission. The woman in brocade clothes heard this, and her tears flowed even more fiercely. Shang Ruai took out a porcelain bottle and applied the spiritual spring water in the bottle on her scalded skin. The skin that was burning just now was instantly cooled. She couldn't help but widen her eyes and looked at the porcelain bottle in her hand and said in amazement, What kind of potion is this? It is so effective. Exclusive secret recipe. What kind of herbs are in it? Shang Ruai couldn't help but laugh. Didn't this girl understand what a secret recipe was? Since it was said to be a secret recipe, it naturally could not be passed on to others. Miss, I am still counting on this potion to make money, so I will not reveal the formula. The brocade-clothed woman thought about it, and her eyes lit up. In this case, why don't you sell this potion to me? Shang Ruai heard this and smiled. Judging from your dress, you should not be from Tianshan. I am the legitimate daughter of the Biling Li family. Biling Li family? She frowned slightly. Biling people? Having dealt with Biling people several times, she had a very bad impression of Biling. Just when she was about to refuse, she heard the woman say, You won't lose if you cooperate with our Li family. Our Li family is a royal merchant, specializing in providing dongju for the Biling royal family. Dongju? The words of refusal turned around in her mouth and finally swallowed. The so-called dongju is the pearl in the previous life. In Shang Ruai's eyes, pearls are not so precious, just a kind of decoration, but in Tianshan, dongju is a symbol of status. Only the royal family and nobles can enjoy it, and then there are wealthy businessmen who are willing to pay a high price to buy the inheritance. If someone uses dongju to make a set of jewelry, I'm afraid they won't even dare to wear it, for fear of being spotted by thieves and taken away. Then, besides paying tribute to the royal family, do you sell it elsewhere? Shang Ruai put away the potion in her hand and handed her a dress. You and I are similar in body shape. If you don't mind, put it on first. She took the dress and her eyes lit up. This is warm satin. Warm satin is extremely precious. Biling is located in the extreme north, the weather is cold, and more than half of the year is winter. For this reason, they are very fond of warm satin. The Li family is a royal merchant and very wealthy. In previous years, they would purchase warm satin from Tianshan to make clothes. After all, there are not many families who can afford warm satin. Every time she wore warm satin to attend a banquet, the ladies of various families were very envious. But when she went to purchase again this year, she didn't buy even one piece. Unexpectedly, she saw a pattern here today that she had never seen before. This must be the new material this year. She looked at Shang Ruai and blinked. Excuse me, does the milk tea business make a lot of money? Shang Ruai didn't respond for a while. Seeing that she didn't respond, the woman curled her lips and said, A piece of warm satin is worth 1,000 gold coins, and it can't be bought with silver. She pointed to the dress in her hand. Every year, my father would buy a few pieces for me, and he would buy every pattern. I have never seen the pattern of your dress before. It must have been available this year. However, when my father sent someone to buy it this year, it was said that all the warm satin was bought by a guest. They felt very distressed when they bought a few pieces every year. She couldn't imagine how much money it would cost to buy all the warm satin this year. When she first arrived in Tianshan, she heard that milk tea was very popular. When she walked on the street, many people held a cup in their hands. I thought it must be very delicious. Now, seeing that she was giving away such precious warm satin, she guessed that the income from this business must be very considerable. After listening to her explanation, Shang Ruai couldn't help but laugh. Miss Li has seen that I am just a small business and can't make much money. Li Xia didn't believe it and curled her lips. Don't say it if you don't want to. Although I am interested in milk tea, I just drink it on weekdays. But I am very interested in the potion in your hand. Shang Ruai's eyes sparkled. Isn't she interested in the Dongju of their Li family? Although the output of Dongju is not high, but a small pearl is very valuable. Every year, apart from the tribute to the royal family, there are still some left. Li Xia put on her dress, with a smug look on her face. Our Li family is also considered to have a very high status among the many royal merchants in Bailing. Shang Ruai nodded when she heard it. Since there will be a surplus, where will the remaining Dongju be sold? Of course they are made into jewelry. Although those Dongju pearls are not big, and some even have flaws on them, they are still sought after by everyone. Do you sell Dongju clams? Dongju clams? Li Xia instantly understood her intention and smiled. Of course we sell them, but for the sake of this dress, I kindly remind you not to dream of raising Dongju clams by yourself. What do you mean? Dongju clams grow very slowly. Our Li family's ancestors made a living from this, and it has been passed down for hundreds of years before we have today's heritage. Some clams need to be raised for dozens or even hundreds of years before they can produce better Dongju. In the early years, some vendors wanted to buy Dongju clams and raise them themselves, but they all ended in failure. Li Xia smiled and said, if Dongju was so easy to get, it would not be so loved by the royal family. Shang Ruai nodded. Dongju was indeed rare, but in the previous life, Dongju had long been turned into jewelry that ordinary people could afford, which showed that there were still ways to increase the yield of Dongju. Thinking of the spiritual spring in her own space, if she used the spiritual spring water to cultivate it, there might be unexpected surprises. It doesn't matter. If others can't raise it well, it doesn't mean I can't. I wonder how this clam is sold? Li Xia saw that she insisted, so she stopped persuading her. Since you insist on buying it, come to Huifuan tomorrow, and you can talk to my father about the specific matters. She picked up the porcelain bottle containing the spiritual spring water. How much silver is this medicine and the robe? I'll buy it. Since you want to cooperate with Miss Li, these two things will be your meeting gift. After saying that, Shang Ruai took out another porcelain bottle. Although the pain on the skin has disappeared, the effect of the potion mostly acts on the surface of the skin. This is the Jade Bone Regenerating Pill. After taking it, your skin will be as white as snow and as smooth as cream. I guarantee that your skin will be several times better than it is now. Li Xia's eyes fell on the porcelain bottle. Jade Bone Regenerating Skin. This is what many women dream of. If someone else said it, she would not believe it easily, but after seeing the effect of the potion with her own eyes, she is now very interested in the pills that Shang Ruai took out. If the effect is really so good, she can take the pills back to Bailing. Based on the influence of their Li family, these pills and potions will definitely be sold out in a short time. If I buy this pill and potion in large quantities, how much silver will it cost? Potion is 5 taels of silver, and pills are 30 taels of silver. Li Xia's eyes lit up. It was so cheap. The burn ointment used by the nobles of Bailing all came from a pharmacy called Ren Xian Tang. The pills and ointments were very effective, but the price was extremely high. Only the nobles or the children of wealthy families could afford them. A small jar of ointment cost more than 10 taels of silver, not even half of the volume of this porcelain bottle. Each pill cost at least 5 taels of silver. She looked at the porcelain bottle containing the pills in her hand. There were at least 10 pills in it, and each pill cost only 3 taels of silver. If it could really achieve the effect of jade bone regeneration, how could it be worth only 5 taels of silver per pill? In this way, her pills were really too cheap. Okay, I'll ask my father for permission. If you come tomorrow, let's talk about this pill. She straightened her dress and walked outside. The woman who spilled milk tea on her stood there, not at all embarrassed. Seeing Li Xia coming out, she stepped forward. Miss Li, please forgive me. I didn't know it was you, and I offended you. Are you okay? Li Xia saw who it was, and the smile on her face disappeared. Her tone was slightly deep. It's you? I'm Xiaoling. Nice to meet you, Miss Li. She had a slight smile on her face. A few days ago, our girl said that she wanted to invite all the girls for a boat ride. I didn't expect that Miss Li would also come to Tianshan. Xiaoling looked at what she was wearing and her eyes paused. Zhang Ruru actually wants to invite me on a boat trip? It must be like a weasel paying a New Year's visit to a chicken with ulterior motives. She sneered. The man she has been thinking about day and night is finally engaged to me. She hates me so much, but she still wants to invite me on a boat trip? Is she planning to take advantage of the boat trip to throw me into the lake and drown me? Most of the customers who were buying milk tea in the shop were from Tianshan. When they heard her such explicit words, they all looked over. The people of Bailing are tough, and most of them speak sharply, regardless of the eyes of the people around them. When Xia Ling heard this, her face was unnatural for a moment. She didn't expect that what her young lady said was guessed. What are you talking about, Miss Li? You and Our Lady are close friends, and Our Lady would never do such things. Xia Ling was sweating profusely. Forget it. Don't talk nonsense with me. So, what if your young lady and I are close friends? You poured scalding milk tea on me today. My dress cost 300 taels. It's not too much to ask you to compensate according to the price. And the injuries on my body. She glanced at Xiaoling. If the shopkeeper wasn't here today, I would have scars on my body. Go back and tell your young lady that although you made the mistake today, I will blame her for it all. Xiaoling's face changed when she heard it. She was about to explain, but Li Xia was not willing to give her another chance to speak. She said hello to Shang Ruai and walked out. Xiaoling blushed and hurried away. She had caused a big disaster today. When she returned, the young lady would definitely punish her severely. The next morning, Shang Ruai came to Huifu Inn. There were 2 maids standing at the door of the inn. They were the servants who followed Miss Li to the milk tea shop yesterday. Seeing Shang Ruai getting off the carriage, she hurried to greet her. Shopkeeper Shang, our young lady has been waiting for a long time. Following the maid to the room on the 3rd floor, Li Xia was still wearing the warm satin from yesterday, which showed that she really liked it very much. Sister Shang, you are finally here. She smiled and walked forward to take her hand. I thought you forgot, and I was thinking of inviting you to your shop. Shang Ruai looked at the sky outside and couldn't help laughing. It was only a short time since the day began, and she was so anxious. Li Xia lifted up her sleeves, revealing a piece of white wrist. Shang Ruai raised her eyebrows slightly. Her skin seemed to be much whiter than yesterday. Sister Shang, my dear sister, I will take as many of these jade bone regenerating pills as you have. I only took 1 pill last night. She paused slightly. He looked around and said softly, not long after I took it, some black, sticky stuff appeared on my body. After I washed it off, I felt that my skin became much whiter. Lingquan water was added to the Yugu Xingji pills. Lingquan water has the function of washing tendons and marrow, which is different from the effect of external use. Li Xia took it for the first time, and the effect was very obvious. This is your first time using it. If you take it for a long time, the effect will be better. Shang Ruai said softly. I guess it's rare to see a girl as beautiful as Miss Li in Bailing. Li Xia blushed and said with a smile, although he coaxed me, my father often said that I am the most beautiful woman in Bailing. Shang Ruai nodded. Li Xia's appearance is neither delicate nor beautiful, but rather has a bit of heroic spirit. She may not be beautiful enough in the eyes of Tianshan people, but she is a rare beauty in Bailing. Sister Shang, your skin is so good. It's because of this Yugu Xingji pill. Li Xia suddenly leaned closer, looked at Shang Ruai's face, and said enviously, I have grown up and traveled around the 4 countries with my father, but this is the first time I have seen a woman as beautiful as Sister Shang. If Sister's background was better, she was the child of an official instead of a merchant. She would definitely marry a rich man in the future. She sighed and said, since I was sensible, my father has been looking forward to me marrying into a wealthy family one day. I have always had high aspirations since I was a child. However, even if the Li family is quite wealthy, it is difficult for me to marry into a noble family. Now this marriage is still obtained by my father with all his efforts. Thanks to my sister for helping me with my wounds yesterday, otherwise this marriage would have been cancelled. Shang Ruai originally didn't want to get involved in other people's family affairs, but when she heard the last part, she actually felt a little familiar. She thought about it. What's the difference between her current situation and that of her mother? The daughter of a wealthy businessman married Shang Mian, who had just entered the officialdom. She thought she had married a perfect husband and spent all her family wealth to pave the way for his official career, but what happened in the end? There wasn't even a decent cenotaph. Marrying such a person, let alone entering the officialdom, what's the point of holding a high position? It's just a short life. Before she could speak, she heard Li Xia continue. Although my fiancé is still a scholar, he is also a scholar after all. Although Biling is martial, scholar is at least a title. When the time comes, our Li family will make more arrangements and he will eventually enter the officialdom. After she finished speaking, she was stunned for a moment and murmured, "Why am I telling you all this?" She stood up and was about to take Shang Ruai to her father's room when she heard her say faintly, "When the bird is dead, the bough is put away. When the rabbit is dead, the dog is cooked." This is such a simple truth. I believe you can understand it without me saying more. If you think he is a good man worthy of trust and want to spend your life with him, you must make yourself stronger.
Strong?
How strong? She is just a woman. At this moment, there was a knock on the door outside. "Miss, the master and the eldest young master have been waiting for a long time." When she came to the next room, she saw Master Li sitting on the main seat and a man sitting on the left, presumably the eldest young master just now. Seeing her coming, Master Li had a smile on his face. "Shopkeeper Shang, I have heard of your name for a long time. It's a pleasure to meet you." Master Li is too polite. "I am just doing some small business." She said this, but her eyes did not show any flattery or inferiority because the Li family's business was bigger. There was only respect from the younger generation to the elder. The head of the Li family saw all this, and his heart was slightly moved. He originally thought that his daughter just made friends with a woman who wanted to take advantage of their Li family's dongju. Now it seems that he was wrong. "I heard from my Xia that shopkeeper Shang wants to buy some dongju clams?" Shang Ruai nodded. "I heard from Miss Li by chance, so I wanted to raise them and try." "Haha, dongju clams can of course be sold, but we are not responsible for whether they can survive, how long it will take to raise dongju, and what the quality is like." The head of the Li family smiled. Over the years, many people have bought dongju clams from him, but no one can raise them. Shang Ruai nodded. "I wonder how much silver this dongju clams are?" 3 taels of silver per clam. 3 taels. Shang Ruai pretended to be embarrassed. "I didn't expect this dongju clams to be so expensive." Humph. A sneer came from the side, and the young master of the Li family said, "You think 3 taels of silver are expensive, and you still want to raise clams?" He said to Li Xia, "I wonder what kind of people you have met. Do you think my father and I are idle? Are you waiting here to do business with your good sisters for dozens or hundreds of taels?" In his opinion, Shang Ruai is a girl, and at most she can buy 100 clams. If it were in the past, they would not want to care about the business of hundreds of taels of silver, but now it is the end of the year, and there are too many places to use silver. The most important thing is that he lost 30,000 taels in the casino and lost all the cash on their Li family's account. If he was not the only male in the Li family, his father would probably beat him to death. Li Xia heard him say this and retorted, "What about 100 taels? Since childhood, grandfather and father have taught us that we can only achieve great things from small to big, and we should start business from a small age and not give up because it is small." Didn't our Li family start with 3 taels of silver? The head of the Li family nodded. What Xia said makes sense. Besides, if it weren't for shopkeeper Shang, Xia would have scars on her body. Shopkeeper Shang is our Li family's benefactor. If shopkeeper Shang likes it, we are willing to give him 100 as a gift. Shang Ruai smiled. Saving people is just a piece of cake. Master Li doesn't have to take it to heart. I wonder how many Dongju clams shopkeeper Shang needs this time? In fact, Master Li didn't take it to heart. After all, she was a woman, and the shop she opened was just a beverage shop. Even if he had some silver, how much could he buy? Now, there is a deficit of tens of thousands of taels of silver on the account. He needs to fill it up as soon as possible, otherwise if the old man in the family knows, he is afraid that he will take away his son's inheritance rights. The young master of the Li family is named Li Quan. He is born to a concubine. He was originally unable to inherit the Li family. Since he is the only male in the family, he was fostered under the name of the main wife. The old master, he has never been happy with his illegitimate grandson. If it weren't for the fact that women could not inherit the Li family, he would have made Li Xia, his legitimate granddaughter, the young master of the family. There were also some selfish reasons for letting Li Quan be the young master of the family. Li Quan was born to the woman that the head of the Li family loved the most. When he was young, he wanted to marry her as his principal wife, but her mother's family was ordinary, and the wives of the Li family's principal wives were either from prominent families or wealthy families. Fortunately, the principal wife only gave birth to a girl, so the identity of the young master of the Li family naturally fell on Li Quan. Shang Rui smiled and said, I have never raised Eastern pearl mussels, so I only need a small amount for the first time.
Li Quan nodded secretly.
He knew it would be like this. How could a mere woman come up with a large amount of silver? 10,000 will be enough.
What?
10,000? Li Quan sat up straight with disbelief in his eyes. Are you serious? It's really 10,000? Of course. Shang Rui looked at him. Master Li, do you think it's too few and don't want to sell it? How could it be too few? 10,000 clams are exactly 30,000 taels, which just makes up for the deficit on the account. He and the head of the Li family looked at each other, and they saw surprise in each other's eyes.
Not a small amount.
The head of the Li family said happily, I wonder when Manager Shang wants to get it? After the new year, I will go to the Li family to get the clams myself. After the new year? The father and son looked at each other, and the head of the Li family whispered, Shopkeeper Shang, can you pay the silver first? Upon hearing this, Li Xia hurriedly said, Dad, our Li family has always been a silver for goods company. How can we let others take the silver first? The head of the Li family looked at her, coughed a few times, and whispered, Xia, you are a woman. You don't have to interfere in the family business.
But
before she finished speaking, the head of the Li family looked at Shang Rui with a burning gaze. Shopkeeper Shang, you should know that looking at the 4 countries, the Dongju of my Biling Li family is the best. Every year, the best ones will be tribute to the palace for the queens and princesses to wear. There are countless people who want to cooperate with my Li family. If you don't pay the silver first, I'm afraid that these Dongju clams will be gone before the new year. Upon hearing this, Shang Rui nodded seriously. The Li family's Dongju is indeed very famous, but just now the head of the Li family said that this business has nothing to do with Miss Li, right? Xia is a woman, so she naturally cannot interfere in the family's business. As soon as the head of the Li family finished speaking, he heard Li Quan next to him sneer. My daughter will get married sooner or later. Only men in the family can really keep the wealth, so the family's business naturally has nothing to do with her. Shang Rui heard this, smiled, stood up and bowed, saying, In this case, the 2 of you should just pretend that I have not been here today. After that, she stood up and was about to leave. Seeing her like this, the father and son of the Li family were anxious. Now she is the god of wealth. How could anyone let the god of wealth go in this world? The head of the Li family hurried forward with a smile on his face. Shopkeeper Shang, why are you leaving for no reason? The reason why I want to buy the pearl oysters is because I get along well with Miss Li. If this business has nothing to do with her, I would never want to do it. Shang Rui looked at Li Xia standing aside. In that case, I'll take my leave.
What?
She can take out 30,000 taels just because of this. It seems that she doesn't care how much profit the 30,000 taels can bring, which shows that she has a lot of money in her hands. Seeing her leave without any reluctance, the head of the Li family hurriedly chased after her. Shopkeeper Shang, "Shopkeeper Shang, let's talk it out nicely. Let's talk it out nicely." His eyes fell on his daughter. He never expected that his daughter would actually find such a god of wealth for their Li family. He gritted his teeth. In this case, Shopkeeper Shang's affairs will be handed over to Xia Xia. However, she seldom deals with business matters. If there is any inadequacy in the hospitality, please forgive her. Hearing this, Li Xia Xia's eyes flashed with a hint of light. "Dad, are you serious?" "Xia Xia, remember not to neglect her." "Yes, Dad." After Shang Ruoyi left, Li Quan's face was cold. "Dad, such a big business is handed over to Xia Xia. There is no other way now. Someone has to make up for the 30,000 taels of silver notes that you are short of. You know that your grandfather is not satisfied with you. If he knows about this, he will definitely punish you severely." The head of the Li family looked at his son and sighed. "If it weren't for your mother, you would have kicked you out of the house long ago for causing such a big trouble." Li Quan's face changed, and he smiled embarrassedly. "Dad, my son will definitely remember the previous lesson and will not make the same mistake again." Li Xia Xia sent Shang Ruoyi away. On the way, she thought for a long time, but still couldn't help asking, "Sister Shang, why do you have to let me do this business with you? I like you more." Shang Ruoyi paused on the way to get in the car, looked back at Li Xia Xia, who was standing at the door. "Some things, if you look carefully, you will see scenery that you have never seen before. The same is true for people. They always have to go through some things to know what they really want." Li Xia Xia looked at the carriage going away and blinked. She always felt that there were other deep meanings in Shang Ruoyi's words. In the carriage, He Jinghun was sitting on the cushion and handed her the hot water bottle in his hand. "It's just some dongju. If you like it, I'll get it for you. Why do you have to come here to buy dongju clams? How can they sell you good clams? Even if you buy dongju clams worth hundreds of thousands or millions, you can't get a top-quality dongju." Shang Ruoyi curled her lips. "I know this naturally." She held the hot water bottle, and a sly smile flashed across her face. "They can't raise top-quality dongju. How do you know I can't raise it either? With the spiritual spring water, why worry about not being able to raise top-quality dongju?" She was just afraid that there were too many dongju. He Jinghun looked at her smug look and said no more. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the year. In previous years, Xia village was dead, and there was no sign of celebrating the new year. After all, if you couldn't even have enough food, what difference would it make whether you celebrated the new year or not? But this year was completely different. Every household was busy. Each worker who worked at the He family was given meat and food. "Thank you, boss." Erju smiled and said, "Since we have been with the boss, our lives have become much better. Yes, it's like a dream to have meat to eat during the new year this year." Just then, a whip sounded not far away. "Hurry up! Hurry up! If you don't leave, I'll whip you to death." The voices of the Yamen runners came over. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound. They saw 6 people wearing thin prison uniforms with many holes on them, and the wounds on their skin were clearly visible. "Sir, please, give us some coarse grain cakes." A disheveled woman rubbed her hands and begged. "The child is almost starving to death. Sir, please, please. Still want to eat coarse grain cakes? You are dreaming. If you don't leave, I will beat you to death without waiting for you to starve to death." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised the whip and was about to whip again. A middle-aged man in prison uniform held the woman and the child in his arms and let the whip fall on his back. He gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. The Yamen runner whipped a few times, and he felt relieved and said in a deep voice, "Hurry up and leave. Your residence is in front." The man gritted his teeth. His back was already bloody and fleshy. The woman kept wiping her tears when she saw this, and the child in her arms also cried loudly. The crying of the child gave the Yamen runner a headache. He snatched the child from the woman's arms with one hand and said fiercely, "Cry, cry. You just know how to cry. I might as well strangle you to death."
"No."
"No, sir." The woman begged, "Please give the child back to me. The child is still young. He is just scared." "Afraid?" The Yamen runner sneered. "You won't know fear when you are dead." A hideous smile flashed across his face. Just as he was about to strangle the child to death, he heard a cold shout from the side. Stop. The Yamen runner's hand paused. Shang Ruai walked forward, looked at the child in his arms, frowned. The child is innocent, and the one who made the mistake is not the child. You are taking human life lightly.
Who are you?
He came from other states and counties and did not know Shang Ruai, but judging from her clothes, she was either rich or noble, and there was no way she was a fugitive. I just live here. Live here? The bailiff looked at her suspiciously. But is he an exiled prisoner? Shang Ruai nodded. Yes. The bailiff's face was full of anger when he heard it. How dare a prisoner question this official? He is simply courting death. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw the child in his hand away, and the woman hurriedly hugged him in her arms. The bailiff raised the whip in his hand again, and was about to swing it at her. Shang Ruai narrowed her eyes slightly, and just as she was about to shoot the silver needle in her hand, a stone flew over and hit the bailiff's chest. He Jingheng was sitting in a wheelchair a few meters away. A mouthful of blood spurted out of the bailiff's mouth. He sat up from the ground with difficulty. You actually dared to fight with the officials, you. He spat out another mouthful of blood. You are simply looking for death. We are looking for death. Shang Ruai sneered. You were hit by a flying stone and spit blood. Who can you blame? He wiped the blood from his lips and said angrily, How could it be a flying stone?
It was clearly a conspiracy by you.
A conspiracy? Shang Ruai cast his eyes on the people not far away, with the corners of his lips slightly raised. Ask them if they have seen us plotting against you? Or ask the fugitives standing here, whether it was a flying stone or some hidden weapon. They avoided their eyes, and no one answered. Shang Ruai stepped forward and whispered beside him. Not to mention hitting you with stones, even if you are killed, you will have no way to defend yourself. Who are you? As soon as he finished speaking, a group of Yamen runners came over. He stood up tumbling as if he had seen his savior. Sir. The leading officer quickened his pace and walked towards this direction. He was about to complain loudly and wanted to make Shang Ruai's actions public, when he saw the officer walked straight past him and walked quickly towards Shang Ruai. Madam Shang. The 3 words Crown Prince's consort on her lips were replaced by Madam Shang. I'm sorry to have frightened you. Shang Ruai blinked. Wasn't this the officer Zhang who was responsible for escorting them? Sir Zhang. Shang Ruai smiled. Why you? Zhang, who glanced at He Jingheng with a subtle look, with a bitter smile on his face. This is the order from above, and I have no choice but to obey. Shang Ruai laughed secretly in her heart, thinking that this must be the work of He Jingheng. The beaten Yamen runner was stunned to see the master carefully replying to the woman's words. His eyes almost fell out. Master, she. Before he finished speaking, he was slapped to the ground by Zhang Hu. You only know how to cause trouble for me, every day. He said angrily with his tiger eyes wide open. You don't even know how to polish your mask. You dare to offend anyone. The man was shocked, and when he looked at Shang Ruai again, his eyes were full of horror. A fugitive actually made them bow and scrape. This person's identity was definitely not someone he could offend. Madam Shang, I was blind and didn't recognize a great man.
Please don't blame me.
Shang Ruai nodded. Your Excellency is really flexible. Yes. Zhang, who stepped forward and whispered, Madam Shang, it's the end of the year now. It's unlucky to kill someone. The Yamen runner was so scared when he heard it that he knelt on the ground with a plop. My Excellency, I won't dare to do it again, never again. Forget it. Shang Ruai waved her hands. How can I, a convict, decide life and death? Zhang, who wiped the sweat from his forehead. Yes, of course. You are the one who can decide life and death here. As long as you frown, the god will probably cut the person's neck before they draw their swords. Shang Ruai's eyes fell on the convicts. Why were they exiled? He was the governor of Nani County. Zhang, who pointed at the man who was half kneeling on the ground. He was seriously injured and was a little unconscious at this time. There is a notorious bully in Nani County who robbed women. Lord Zhao investigated and dealt with him according to the law, but the man had a strong background, and someone found a reason to exile Lord Zhao here. Zhang Hu sighed. Lord Zhao is a well-known honest official, loved by the people, but he ended up like this. As soon as he finished speaking, a stone bigger than the previous one fell from a high place and hit the head of the Yamen runner. In an instant, blood spilled on the ground, and the man fainted on the ground, no longer breathing. Shang Ruai looked sideways and saw that Yunqi had already pushed He Jingheng back. Zhang Hu smacked his lips and said to his men around him, "What are you looking at? He was killed by a rock rolling down the mountain. Why don't you go and collect the body? Are you waiting for me to go in person?" Upon hearing this, the Yamen runners hurriedly carried the body away, and the blood on the ground was quickly cleaned up. What happened just now seemed like an illusion. Mountain? Where did the mountain come from? The surroundings were clearly flat. Where were the mountains? They knew that their boss was talking nonsense, so they had no choice but to pretend to be deaf and dumb. Shang Ruai looked at the people and whispered, "Master Zhang, how are you going to deal with these prisoners?" "Of course, we will properly place them first." He looked at Shang Ruai's face, and then his eyes turned to He Jingheng's back. He tentatively asked, "There are no vacant houses now. Your courtyard is so big. I wonder if you can temporarily place their family in your house?" Shang Ruai nodded. "Since the master has such a request, I will naturally cooperate." Zhang Hu wiped the sweat from his head and said with a smile, "In this case, I will trouble Madame Shang." Seeing this, the woman and the child knelt on the ground and kowtowed continuously, "Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency." No need to be polite. After the few people were settled, except for Master Zhao's family, the other three had been staying with Zhao's distant relatives. This time, the Zhao family confiscated their property and exiled them together. For this, they were extremely dissatisfied, but they could do nothing. After settling the Zhao family members in a side room in the backyard, Zhao Zhili, the prefect of Nani County, was already unconscious. Shang Ruai simply treated his wounds and left some medicine for Mrs. Hua. Mrs. Hua hugged the child in her arms and said with tears in her eyes, "Thank you, my dear. Thank you." She was about to kneel down again. Shang Ruai hurriedly helped her up. "No need to be polite. Just stay here and feel at ease." As soon as she went out, she saw the three people who were exiled with the Zhao family standing not far away. When they saw her coming out, they hurried over. The three knelt on the ground. "Thank you for taking us in. We are very grateful. It's just a matter of convenience, no need to thank me. When you three recover, I will let Zhang Hu find a good place for you." When the three heard this, they looked at each other and understood each other tacitly. "Thank you for your help." Zhao Jiwen looked at the closed door opposite and asked in a low voice, "What about my brothers and the others?" "Their injuries are quite serious." Shang Ruai looked at the three of them and smiled. "You are lucky. They just have some minor skin injuries." She said to Xiaorao beside her, "Take them to clean up and find some warm clothes." "Yes." The woman standing opposite her looked at the warm parts of Shang Ruai's body, and a light flashed in her eyes. She stepped forward and saluted in a proper manner to Shang Ruai. "I am Zhao Xin, a commoner. Thank you for your rescue." Xiaoyao took them away. Shang Ruai came to the study. Yunqi stood at the door and whispered, "Crown Prince's concubine. Why hasn't He Jingheng come out yet?" Yunqi nodded, hesitated for a while, and said, "Lord Zhao used to be under the Crown Prince. Now that the Crown Prince is in trouble, the court has convicted all the officials who used to have good relations with the Dingwa Palace, implicated them, and the Crown Prince must be very sad." Shang Ruai knew in her heart that He Jingheng had personally beaten the Yamen runner to death. There must be a reason. He was not an impulsive person. Shang Ruai looked at the closed door. Presumably, the things he had always believed in were collapsing bit by bit. Zhao Jiwen and his family of three changed into cotton-padded clothes. Zhao Xining touched the coarse cotton-padded clothes on her body. Her eyes slightly sank, and her eyes fell on Xiaoyao, who was wearing a cotton-padded clothes made of ordinary satin at this time. Zhao Xining said, "Sister Xiaoyao is so lucky to meet such a generous master like the noble sister." Xiaoyao saw her eyes fell on her clothes, smiled and said, "Indeed, our young lady has the best heart and treats us servants very generously." Is the man who rescued us the brother of the noble sister? Her eyes flashed slightly. Although the man was sitting in a wheelchair, his demeanor was more noble than that of the royal family. She only dared to sneak a few glances at him. The handsome face that seemed like a god made her feel dazed. That's our young lady's husband. Xiaoyao looked at her a few times with some surprise, and seeing that she looked normal, she didn't say anything. Zhao Xin's heart sank slightly when he heard this. This man actually married and had children. Shang Rui's face appeared in his mind. Then he looked at his own pale and thin face in the mirror, and the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. How could he compete with her in this state? Any man would know who to choose. When he came to the side room, Zhao Jiwen and his wife were already waiting there.
Enin.
Lu walked forward, looked at Xiaoyao behind her, and said with a smile, "Thank you, young lady. You're welcome. Someone will send some food over later." Hearing that there was food, the eyes of the three people lit up. After all, during the exile, even eating some coarse grain cakes required the charity of the officials. Not long after, two servants came in with trays. The three people saw the full meat on the plate and couldn't help swallowing their saliva. "Her father, is my eyes broken? Is there really meat on this plate?" Lu murmured. "I must be starving." Zhao Jiwen was also stunned. The servants laughed when they saw this. "It is indeed meat, fresh out of the pot. Eat it while it is hot." The three of them gathered around the table, not caring about etiquette and manners, and started eating with big mouthfuls. After eating and drinking, Zhao Jiwen wiped the oil from his mouth and sighed. "I am so satisfied." After he finished speaking, he burped very loudly. Lu nodded. "How long has it been since you last saw meat?" "I thought I would starve to death here, but I didn't expect that there would be such a good life to live." Zhao Xinin sat there, staring at the food on the table that had not been taken away. After a while, she said to Zhao Jiwen and his wife, "Mom and Dad, do you want to live such a good life forever?" "Of course I do." Lu sighed, "But we are now guilty. How can we live the life that only masters can live? We will start to farm in the spring of next year." "Farm?" Zhao Xinin couldn't help but be shocked. "How to farm?" "Mother, my daughter is not in good health. How can I go to farm? We have to pay taxes every year. If it is not enough, we will be whipped." Zhao Zhili said in a deep voice, "Now we are implicated by your uncle, and there is nothing we can do." "Your uncle did the wrong thing. Why should we be implicated?" She pouted. "Originally, I was also a cousin of the county magistrate's mansion and could find a good husband. But now, I am in this desolate place of exile. What should I do in the future? I think I can only find a husband here." Lu touched her head. "I should have promised you a husband earlier, and you wouldn't have to suffer so much." Zhao Xian thought for a while and whispered, "It's not that there are no good husbands here. Where are the good families here? The people here are either poor or exiled prisoners. Where can they live like this?" Lu paused and looked up suddenly. "You mean this family?" Zhao Xian nodded and whispered, "I have already found out everything. The man who saved us is the owner of this family, and the woman is his wife. Since he is married, do you want to be a concubine?" "Mother, what's wrong with being a concubine?" Zhao Xian sneered. "If I marry into a poor family here, what's the point of being the main wife? I will just live a hard life. If I get sick, I'm afraid I won't even have the money to hire a doctor." She pointed to the room and said, "This is just a side room, where the servants live. Even the servants live like this in their family. You can imagine how luxurious and comfortable the master bedroom must be." Hearing this, Lu's mind became active. "Mother, think about it. It's so good here. Why should we go out and suffer?" Zhao Jiwen and his wife were not people who were willing to suffer. Otherwise, they would not have stayed in the county magistrate's mansion for so many years and lived for free. "What's your plan?" Lu's eyes were full of calculation. "That man," Mother only took a look at him. "He is indeed extraordinary. But do you have the confidence that such a man can be attracted to you?" "Mother, which man doesn't cheat?" She glanced at Zhao Jiwen, only to hear him cough and turn away. Lu glanced at him. "Why are you coughing? Do you think your daughter doesn't know what you have done? Among the women you keep outside, who is willing to be exiled with you? In the end, Won't it be only my daughter and I who will suffer with you? Don't mention the past. Zhao Jiwen said awkwardly. What are you saying in front of your daughter? How can you say nonsense? You clearly. Before she finished speaking, Zhao Xian interrupted with a cold face. Mother, stop arguing with father. The important thing right now is how to stay here. She looked outside vigilantly. Didn't you hear what that woman said? When our injuries are healed, we will ask the official to find another place for us. We must find an opportunity to let that man marry me before we leave. In this way, we will be a family. If I stay here, you can naturally stay as well. What she despised the most were her biological parents. They quarreled every day over trivial matters and did nothing at such an old age. She knew very well that if she wanted to change her fate, she had to rely on herself. Shang Ruai returned to the room. Xiaorao thought for a moment and told her the questions Zhao Xin had asked her today. Miss, I see that the girl from the Zhao family is not an easy person to deal with. Shang Ruai smiled. Of course, she has high aspirations. She has been working in the county magistrate's mansion for 10 years, living a mediocre life. How can she be a good person? The children raised by the couple must not be much better. Miss, the news you want. Ah Cheng said softly outside the door. Xiaorao opened the door and took the letter from Ah Cheng. Her fingertips did not touch Ah Cheng's hand easily. Her face felt slightly hot. She turned around and closed the door. Shang Ruai saw her abnormal behavior and understood what was going on, but did not expose her. She just smiled and joked, What's wrong? I see the weather is still cold. How come someone is thinking about love? Upon hearing this, Xiaoyao's face turned even redder. Miss. After handing the letter to Shang Ruai, she turned around and left with a blushing face, picked up the sewing basket on the table, and started doing needlework. Shang Ruai didn't intend to let her go, and continued. Why? Have you already started sewing your wedding dress? Miss, if you continue like this, I won't agree. I will find a nunnery and become a nun. Shang Ruai smiled. Are you serious? Can you give up your ideal husband? Miss, I only want to follow you for the rest of my life. You are my savior. I am willing to serve you for the rest of my life. As long as I can be with you, I am willing to stay single for the rest of my life. What nonsense you are talking about. How can you not get married? Shang Ruai looked at her. Let me test Ah Cheng's attitude. If you are interested, we will find a good day when the weather warms up and settle your marriage. She opened the letter in her hand, took a quick look, and her eyes became colder. It was just as she thought. Men in this world are really the same. They are not satisfied with what they have in their bowls, but they are also staring at what they have in their pots. It is not enough to marry a virtuous woman, but they are also thinking about marrying a few charming women. They are not afraid that their bodies can't bear it. She threw her heart on the table. She sent people to investigate the Biling Li family. The Li family's son lost money in gambling and withdrew all the cash of 30,000 taels from the Li family's account. He still owed 20,000 taels to others. Now the real person in charge of the Li family is the old man of the Li family. Even if the head of the Li family wants to fill the hole for him, he can't take out so much money, so he set his sights on the betrothal gift of the legitimate daughter. He is now thinking about marrying off the legitimate daughter as soon as possible and using her betrothal gift to repay the gambling debt of the illegitimate son. The man who was engaged to Li Xiaxia had already married 4 or 5 concubines, one of whom had given birth to a daughter. Li Xiaxia would become a legitimate mother when she married him. She was so young, but she was going to be a mother. It was really frightening. The reason why the head of the Li family wanted to sacrifice his daughter to fulfill this unpromising was because he was born to the head of the Li family's favorite concubine. She was filled with righteous indignation in the room, not knowing that all her words had fallen into the ears of He Jingheng at the door. Yunqi at the door looked at her nose with his eyes and his heart with his nose, pretending to be deaf and dumb behind him. He Jingheng raised his eyebrows slightly and pushed the door open and walked in. Why are you so angry, my lady? He Jingheng smiled. Is there anything I have done wrong? Shang Ruai looked at his face that brought disaster to the country and the people, and she was furious. Aren't you in the study? What are you doing here? If I hadn't come, I wouldn't know why my lady was sulking. Yunqi pushed him into the room and retreated. Seeing this, Xiaoyao hurriedly put down the needlework in her hands and followed Yunqi away. Shang Ruai glared at him, without saying a word. He Jingheng stood up from his wheelchair, walked to her, looked at the letter on the table and knew the key. It's just an outsider's business. Why do you get so angry? He smiled. You are a doctor. You should know the truth that anger hurts the body. We are both human beings. Why can men have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but women must be faithful to one man? Shang Ruai's voice fell, and He Jingheng's face visibly sank. What did you say? He supported himself on the desk with both hands, imprisoned Shang Ruai between his body and the desk, and the strong masculine scent filled the tip of his nose, and Shang Ruai's face suddenly felt like it was on fire. In order to complete the task in the previous life, they had been closer, but that was just to complete the task. Even hugging each other could keep their hearts calm, but at this moment, just getting close made her blush and her heart beat. He Jingheng saw her discomfort, but he didn't intend to let her go. What? You can't say it. He whispered. Didn't you say it happily just now? I mean, why can a man have 3 wives and 4 concubines? What about the latter part? The latter? What latter part? She coughed a few times and felt a little stuffy, so she pushed him. Get out of the way, it's hot. As soon as her hand was placed on He Jingheng's chest, a big hand covered the back of her hand. Do you feel it? What? Shang Ruai stuttered. My heart, it's beating for you now. Feeling the violent beating of the heart under her palm, Shang Ruai's fingertips curled up slightly. He Jingheng's head slowly lowered. Shang Ruai looked at the handsome face that was gradually enlarged in front of her eyes and slowly closed her eyes. Between the two people was getting closer and closer. Their breaths intertwined. Shang Ruai closed her eyes for some reason and slightly exerted force on her fingertips against his body. At this moment, Yunqi's voice rang out from outside the door. Master, an urgent letter from the western regions. Their lips were a millimeter apart. The charming atmosphere was instantly broken. Shang Ruai suddenly opened her eyes and subconsciously pushed with both hands. He Jingheng's figure staggered back a step. What's wrong? He Jingheng's voice was a little hoarse, and his voice was indescribably and charming. Yunqi. She pointed in the direction of the door and said unnaturally, Urgent letter. Let him wait. He just stretched out his hand, and Shang Ruai dodged it by turning sideways. I'm a little tired today. I'm going to rest first. Yunqi is still waiting for you. After saying that, she left He Jingheng there and left alone. Yunqi was outside the door and could not hear any response from inside for a long time. He looked at the urgent letter in his hand and was about to raise his hand to knock on the door again. The next moment, the door that was originally closed was opened in an instant. Master, there is an urgent message from the western region. Before he finished speaking, an extremely cold and stern gaze fell on him. Yunqi's back stiffened. Who made the master unhappy? Did he quarrel with the prince's wife? He was standing outside the door just now. How come he didn't hear any sound? He Jingheng looked at him coldly. If there is no major event in the western region today, this prince will kill you. Yunqi stood there blankly, and his heart sank to the bottom of the valley in an instant. It's over. It seems that he has delayed the master's good thing. He looked at the letter in his hand, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. Now, he can only hope that there is something extremely important in this letter, otherwise, he will definitely be skinned by the master today. At this moment, he suddenly began to envy Yuntian, who was still lying in bed recovering from his injuries. What are you standing there for? Why don't you push me to the study? The two of them walked away, and a woman in a brown jacket looked at the yard, turned around and left. Zhao Xining returned to the room, and Zhao Jiwen and his wife were huddled together whispering something. When they saw her come back, they hurriedly asked, Where have you been? Zhao Xining sat on the earth in Kong, and suddenly a very happy smile appeared on her face. Dad, Mom, if I could really become that man's concubine, maybe you two could live more comfortably than the county magistrate and his wife. When the two heard this, their eyes lit up. My dear daughter, what do you mean by this? Zhao Xinin narrated the scene he saw in Shang Ruai's yard exactly. The Zhao couple looked at each other. So what? So this is enough to show that the relationship between the couple is not good. He came out with a gloomy face in just a short while. What does it mean? Which man doesn't like a woman who is as gentle as water? As long as I use some tricks, I don't worry that he won't take the bait. Zhao Xinin thought of the man's appearance, and a shy look flashed across his face. If I ken the child from you, our good days will really come. Hearing this, the Zhao couple nodded and agreed with Zhao Xinin's plan.
My daughter is right.
Now, in this place of exile, we can't count on Zhao Zhili's family. If we don't want to suffer, we have to rely on this place. Zhao Jiwen narrowed his eyes and said to Zhao Xinin, Daughter, is there anything I can do for you? Dad and Mom, don't worry, we must find a perfect opportunity. She saw that Shang Ruai didn't seem to be someone who was easy to deal with. If her methods were too despicable, she would definitely be exposed. By then, let alone being a concubine, she might not even have a full meal. Yunqi was spared a beating because something really happened in the western regions. The secret agents he had set up in the western regions were successively removed within a month, and he had to go to the western regions in person. On the morning of his departure, Shang Ruai was still sleeping. He Jingheng walked to the bedside, looked at her sleeping face, stretched out his hand to touch her face, but was afraid of waking her up, so he sat by her bed for a long time before getting up and leaving. The door of the room was closed. Shang Ruai slowly opened her eyes and looked at the empty couch. She felt a little panicked. She ran to the door barefoot. The moment she opened the door, a tall figure stood in front of her.
You didn't.
Before she finished her words, He Jingheng's breath suddenly approached, and a chill came over her lips. Shang Ruai was stunned where she was. She had not yet recovered from the confusion of just waking up. Didn't you leave? He Jingheng lowered his eyes. His gaze fell on her bare feet, his brows knitted. He took a step forward and hugged her by the waist, with a little helplessness in his tone. It's winter now. Do you want to make yourself sick? Shang Ruai was awake at this time. She leaned her head on He Jingheng's chest, listening to the heartbeat coming from inside, and her lips curled slightly. My heartbeat is faster today than last night. The helplessness in He Jingheng's eyes became even more intense. He knew that he, the prince's consort, was not a person who would suffer losses. He put her back on the bed, half knelt on the ground, reached out to touch her cold soles, and whispered, If you run out like this again, I will definitely punish you. Shang Ruai pulled her feet back from his hands. Didn't you leave? Why are you still at the door? He Jingheng looked at her steadily and smiled suddenly. We've already walked out the door, and suddenly I feel a little bit at a disadvantage for not having a kiss. You scoundrel. Shang Ruai kicked him on the shoulder, and He Jingheng held her feet in his hands, his eyes full of affection, and stroked her insteps with his fingers, his voice hoarse. Wait for me to come back. Just then, Yunqi was at the door, whispering, Master, if you don't leave, it will be dawn. An unnatural look flashed across Shang Ruai's face, and she wanted to pull her feet back, but He Jingheng held them tightly. She reached out and pushed her shoulders. Yunqi is waiting for you. His eyes darkened, and he whispered, Not going.
What?
Yunqi heard it clearly outside the door. Not going? How could he not go? Spring nights are short and the sun rises high. From now on, the king will not attend court early. Now I know why concubine Yu of the previous dynasty was called a demon concubine. He Jingheng said, I have seen concubine Yu's portrait, but it is not even half as good as yours. Shang Ruai's face flushed, and she kicked him on the shoulder with her feet. The next moment, she broke free from his palm. What nonsense are you talking about? Be careful if someone hears it. If someone hears it, then so be it. He stood up, supported his hands on the bed, looked at her intently, and raised his thin lips slightly. Wait for me. Shang Ruai smiled suddenly, put her hands on his shoulders, with a smile on her face, and said in a gentle tone, I'll wait for you. The light in He Jingheng's eyes became even brighter. Just as he was about to lower his head to kiss her, he was pushed away by Shang Ruai. She opened the medicine box at the bedside, which contained several porcelain bottles. The white one is for detoxification, the blue one is for external injuries, and the black one is for internal injuries. She went to the end of the bed and took out a water bag from the cabinet. The water in this is carefully prepared by me. Use it when you are not in good spirits or injured.
Okay.
Seeing her busying around for him, He Jinghung felt very warm in his heart. At this moment, Zhang Ruoyi handed him a musket. Take this, use it for self-defense, and this. She put the grenade in a cloth bag. It's New Year's Day soon. Go early and come back early. Okay. He Jinghun held her in his arms and stroked her soft long hair. He had followed his father to the battlefield since he was a child, and he had never been so reluctant to leave. The two of them were in a room, and at this time, Yunqi was like an ant on a hot pot at the door. He had already angered his master yesterday. If he didn't know what was good for him today, his master might chop him to death with a palm. At this moment, the door opened, and He Jinghun came out with a satisfied look on his face, handing the cloth bag in his hand to Yunqi. Master, this is firearms. And Yi's hand softened, and he almost threw the package in his hand away. It seemed that he had offended his master completely. After the master and servant left, Zhang Ruoyi stuffed herself in the quilt until Xiaoyao came in to help her wash, and then she showed her head. Xiaoyao was startled to see her blushing face. Miss, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? Zhang Ruoyi shook her head and was about to speak when she heard Xiaorao exclaimed, Miss, what's wrong with your mouth? Why is it swollen? She stepped forward quickly. It's winter. There shouldn't be any mosquitoes. Why is it swollen? She suddenly reacted and swallowed back all the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She had served in the concubine's room in the Prime Minister's mansion, so she naturally understood a lot of things. Seeing her expression, Zhang Ruoyi coughed a few times unnaturally and whispered, why don't you bring the water over? Yes, I will help you dress up right away. Xiaoyao smiled and said, after some time, should I call you madam? Xiaoyao knew that Zhang Ruoyi had not consummated her marriage with He Jinghun, so she always called her miss. You're the one who talks too much. Zhang Ruoyi glanced at her and said, if you keep talking nonsense, I will marry you off right now. Xiaoyao really shut up. After Zhang Ruoyi finished dressing up, she came to the courtyard of Zhao Zhili and his wife. Their residence was much better than that of Zhao Jiwen and his wife. It was a guest house with a small courtyard. When Mrs. Hu saw her, she hurriedly bowed. Greetings, my excellency. Madam Zhao, there is no need to be so polite. Zhang Ruoyi smiled. I already know everything about you. Just stay here and rest assured. We will make plans after Lord Zhao's injury has healed. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Hu couldn't stop crying. Thank you for saving me, my excellency. My husband is a stubborn person. When he was framed by others, he didn't even know how to refute it except to cry out for injustice. He said that the court would not wrongly accuse any honest official. Now the whole family has been exiled here. My mother is in poor health and died of illness before she got halfway. She doesn't even have a tomb. Fortunately, my aunt has been promised to someone else and has not been implicated by our family. However, a family of distant relatives who have been staying in our house have been implicated by us. My husband couldn't bear it, so he took all the beatings and scoldings for them along the way, so his health has become like this now. Upon hearing this, Zhang Ruoyi told her to relax. Madam Zhao, you just need to stay here in Xia village with peace of mind. As for Zhao Jiwen's family, you don't have to feel sorry. After all, they have been living off your family for many years, and you have done your best to support them. If they were willing to endure hardships and build their own house, they wouldn't be in this situation today. In her eyes, Zhao Jiwen and his wife deserved it. Mrs. Hu nodded when she heard this. Hearing you say this, I feel much better. Zhang Ruoyi smiled. You said that Lord Zhao is a stubborn person. Aren't you the same? It is useless to waste your energy on unworthy people and things. What you have to do now is to take good care of Lord Zhao and your son. Thank you for your advice. At this moment, Xiaoyao stepped forward and whispered, Mr. and Mrs. Zhao Jiwen brought Zhao Xinin here, saying that they are here to visit Lord Zhao. Zhang Ruoyi nodded and sneered in her heart. Let them in. Mrs. Huo wiped the tears from her face. Not long after, Mr. and Mrs. Zhao Jiwen walked in, followed by Zhao Shinin. "Hello, madam." The three of them saluted Shang Ruai. "No need to be so polite," Zhao Jiwen said with a smile. "If it weren't for madam, we wouldn't even have a full meal. It's just a piece of cake." Shang Ruai's face showed no expression, and she said lightly, "I was just thinking of sending someone to look for you. I thought about going to find Lord Zhang later and arrange a place for you to live. It's almost New Year's Day, and I want you to have a good new year in your new home." The three people's faces turned ugly when they heard it. "Move away from here? How can that be possible? If you move away, how can you get close to that man?" Lu stepped forward and said, "Madam, can't we stay in the mansion?" Shang Ruai knew what they were thinking and sneered. "Stay in the mansion? What do you think my He family is? A refuge? Or do you think I'm as easy to talk to as Lord Zhao? I'm going to support your family of 3 for more than 10 years just by saying that I'm a relative." Shang Ruai looked at the three of them. "We in the He family never keep idle people." These words made the three people's faces even uglier. The Zhao couple looked at each other and dared not say anything. Zhao Xian thought for a moment, then stepped forward and said, "Madam, you misunderstood. My mother did not explain clearly. She meant that the three of us are willing to stay in the mansion to work, and we only ask you to take us in." "Work?" Shang Ruai smiled. "Tell me what you can do? As long as you are willing to take us in, we can do anything." She suddenly knelt on the ground and said earnestly, "Madam, please." At this moment, Song Fengji walked in. "Sister-in-law, why are you here?" "I was free and wanted to chat with my sister-in-law to relieve my boredom. They said you were here, so I came here." She touched her round belly. "I am about to give birth, and I feel at ease when my sister-in-law is at home." Her eyes fell on the other people in the room. "Is this the new maid in the mansion?"
No.
Shang Ruai whispered. "She is just someone I rescued. She will leave the mansion in a few days." Zhao Xin was filled with resentment when she heard this. He had already knelt down in front of her, but she wanted to drive him away. Song Fengji's eyes fell on Zhao Zhili, who was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. She held the handkerchief in her hand and clenched it quietly. "Wait for me outside first," Shang Ruai whispered. "I will go back soon after I deal with the things here." Song Fengji pursed her lips, nodded, and swept her eyes over Zhao Zhili's family again, then turned and left. She walked to the door, paused, looked at Zhao Shinin, who was kneeling on the ground, turned her eyes a few times and turned back. She said to Shang Ruai, "Sister-in-law, I think this girl seems to be clever and skillful. I still lack a servant in my yard. How about giving her to me?" Shang Ruai frowned. She knew what Zhao Shinin was thinking, so she didn't want to keep her in the mansion, but Song Fengji's request made her doubtful. At this moment, Zhao Shinin, who was kneeling on the ground, kowtowed. "Thank you, my dear, thank you." Song Fengji smiled and helped her up. "Come to my yard to serve in the future."
Yes.
Now as long as she can stay here, it doesn't matter which yard she is in. Shang Ruai's eyes passed over to Song Fengji's body without leaving a trace, and her heart sank slightly. Seeing this, Zhao Jiwen and his wife were about to ask her to let them stay, but they heard Shang Ruai say, "I see that you don't have any injuries, so I'll give you 5 taels of silver. Go back to Lord Zhang today and let him arrange a place to stay." She said to the servant outside the door, "Go to the City Defense Department to find Lord Zhang and take the people away."
Yes.
Zhao Jiwen and his wife heard that, and they couldn't stay any longer, so they had to follow the servants and leave. With 5 taels of silver, they can spend this winter safely. Shang Ruai looked at Zhao Shinin, who was looking happy, and said in a slightly cold voice, "Since you have caught the eye of the 3rd young master's wife, you should go to her courtyard and serve her well. Don't have any other thoughts. Otherwise, even if you are a distant relative of Lord Zhao, I will definitely not show mercy." Zhao Shinin hurriedly saluted. "Yes, I know." Xiaoyao looked at Shang Ruai's eyes and whispered, "Miss Zhao, please pay attention to your identity. Now you are a servant. In front of the master, you should call yourself A." Hearing her say this, Zhao Shinin's face flashed an ugly look, but how could she dare to say no now? Yes, I know. After she finished speaking, she gritted her teeth and secretly glared at Xiaoyao. You just wait for me. When I become the master, I will definitely make you look good. Zhao Xining lowered her eyes to cover the resentment in her eyes. Song Fangji saw all this with a slight flash in her eyes. Mrs. Hu stood at the end of the bed, looking at Shang Ruai's decisive style of action, and couldn't help showing admiration. Although the noble lady looks young, she is decisive in her actions. She can be regarded as a role model for us. Madam Zhao, you are too kind. Shang Ruai took out the medicine from the medicine box and handed it to her. Apply the medicine on time. I believe that Lord Zhao will wake up soon. She also ordered someone to give him the spiritual spring water. When Shang Ruai took Zhao Zhili's pulse, she found that he was just exhausted and had some skin injuries. Fortunately, it was winter now, and the wounds were not easy to get infected, otherwise they would fester, which would be difficult to deal with. Thank you very much. Back in the yard, Hyuni walked in. Sister-in-law. Shang Ruai looked at her with a slightly cold expression. Hyuni pursed her lips aggrievedly when she saw this. Sister-in-law, are you angry? No, I'm fine. Why should I be angry? She poured herself a cup of steaming milk tea and saw Hyuni swallowing her saliva at the door from the corner of her eye and said indifferently, Tell me, why did you come to my place? Sister-in-law, I was wrong. I shouldn't have rushed out without caring about anything that day. I will never dare to do it again. She moved in front of Shang Ruai, but did not dare to sit down. She stood aside and kept shaking her wrist. Sister-in-law, I really know I was wrong. I was just worried about my third brother's safety that day, and I acted on impulse. Impulsive? Shang Ruai interrupted her coldly. Do you know how dangerous that day was? If that deputy general had ill intentions, you would. Shang Ruai did not continue, but patted her heavily. You have only learned the basics of martial arts. At most, you can deal with a petty thief. If you have advanced martial arts, you are no match for him. What should I do? Hyuni sighed. My brother taught me for a few days, but he taught me to squat. I was exhausted every day, but I didn't learn anything. After the New Year's Day, you will practice hidden weapons with me. Shang Ruai had already thought about it. Martial arts cannot be achieved overnight, especially for people like Hyuni, who started learning late. They have already missed the best age to practice martial arts. However, gun skills are not difficult. If you can practice accuracy, it will be more practical than martial arts. Okay, I will listen to you. She shook Shang Ruai's sleeves and her eyes fell on the cup of milk tea on the table. Can I have a sip? Shang Ruai poured her a cup. Hyuni was afraid that she would regret it, so she quickly held the milk tea in her hand. God knows how much she missed the taste of milk tea. She was almost crazy about it during the time she was recuperating at home. She drank in small sips and heard Shang Ruai say, From today on, I found a partner to protect you 12 hours a day. Partner? Just when she was confused, she saw Shang Ruai snap her fingers and a slightly larger shadow slowly walked out of the curtain. The milk tea cup in Hyuni's hand fell to the ground instantly. Old tiger. A tiger walked slowly to Shang Ruai, rubbing its huge head against her hand affectionately. Shang Ruai patted its head and said softly, From today on, you'll protect her. If she loses a hair, I will pluck all the hair on your body. When the tiger heard this, human resentment appeared in his eyes. Shang Ruai glared at her, and the tiger had to resign himself to walking to Hyuni. At this time, Hyuni was stiff all over. She did envy Shang Ruai for having a white tiger as a pet, but it was really a very terrifying thing for her to raise one herself.
Sister-in-law.
From today on, it belongs to you alone. Shang Ruai took out a basin filled with spiritual spring books. Seeing this, the tiger stepped forward quickly and drank from it. It looked at Hyuni vigilantly, afraid that she would the water from it. Hyuni was speechless when she saw its defensive eyes. How hungry was she? She actually snatched water from a tiger? Give it a name. Name? Hyuni thought for a while and said, Sister-in-law's tiger is called Xiaobai. She looked at the pattern on the tiger's body and smiled suddenly. Sister-in-law's tiger is white, so it is called Xiaobai. Mine is yellow, so I'll call it Xiaohuang.
What?
Xiaohuang? What kind of a name is that? The tiger stood up from the ground in an instant, with its tiger face drooping. It was the overlord of the forest after all, but it was given the name of a puppy. Where did it put its face? If the brothers in the space knew, would it still have the tiger face? Hiyuni was startled by its action, looked at it carefully, swallowed, and said, "Are you dissatisfied?" Dissatisfied. Dissatisfied. Not satisfied at all. It wanted to roar to the sky, let her know that it was a tiger and not a dog. At this moment, a line of sight fell on it, and that line of sight was like a knife, cutting its flesh and began to hurt. The little yellow tiger raised its eyes slightly and looked at Shangruai. She looked at it expressionlessly. Her expression was normal, but it felt that a steel knife was already on its neck. As long as she gave an order, the steel knife could kill it. Its courage trembled violently, and its body, which had just sat up, fell down uncontrollably. Not only that, it turned over, exposing its belly on it, and its eyes were full of flattery. The next moment, it felt that the steel knife on its neck disappeared instantly, and Shang Ruoi had retracted her gaze. It took a heavy breath. Alive, survived. Shang Ruoi smiled and said to Hiyuni, "Look, it likes the name you gave it very much." Xiao Huang couldn't help but howled in a low voice. It couldn't help but like it. Hiyuni didn't expect that she had picked up such a big bargain, and left happily with Xiao Huang. The tigers in the space have been baptized by the spiritual spring water and have long been intelligent. Although they can't speak, they can understand every word people say. With it by Hiyuni's side, Shang Ruoi is completely at ease. Soon it was New Year's Day, and early in the morning, the whole He mansion began to bustle. The cooks were busy from morning to night and made a total of 28 dishes. The New Year's Day here is the Spring Festival, the biggest day of the year. Shang Ruai looked at the letter in her hand in the room and couldn't help sighing. Xiaoyao saw this and said softly, "Miss, your husband is not coming back?" Shang Ruai nodded. "It seems that we have to spend the first New Year's Day in this place of exile by ourselves." At this moment, the servant outside said, "Young madam, the old lady and the ladies are all in the main hall, waiting for you." Shang Ruai was wearing a white cloak and only a jade hairpin on her head. Xiaoyao saw this and couldn't help saying, "Miss, today is New Year's Day. Isn't your dress too plain?" "It doesn't matter." She smiled. "It's just a family dinner. It's better to be casual." She looked at the baby girl who was already sleeping in the cradle and said to Xiaoyao, "Don't leave her in the room by herself. Just hold her." She came to the main hall, and as the servant said, she was the only one who hadn't arrived yet. "Junior is late." "No problem," Lin said with a smile. "It's not time for dinner yet. We just happened to chat." Shang Ruai's eyes fell on Zhao Xinin, who was pouring water for Tsong Fangji. She has been honest these days. The servant she sent to watch Tsong's yard said that Zhao Xinin has been diligent and serious since he came to the yard, without any mistakes. In just these 2 days, he has surpassed the maid who originally served Tsong and became the most capable person around Tsong. She knew in her heart that Zhao Xinin was not an easy person to deal with. No matter how she behaved now, it was just to cover up her ambitions. "Boy, the servant you found for Fangji is really first-rate," Lin said with a smile. "He is both capable and considerate. Auntie would like to thank you here." Upon hearing this, Shang Ruoi hurriedly said, "Third aunt, you are too polite. This servant was not found by me for my sister-in-law, but by my sister-in-law herself."
Oh.
"Third aunt, don't you know?" Shang Ruai looked at Tsong Fangji. "That day I wanted to send Miss Zhao out of the house, but she cried and insisted on staying as a. Even so, I wanted to refuse. After all, although she was staying in the mansion of Zhao County Magistrate, she was also half a lady of an official family. How could she be ordered around like a servant?" Shang Ruai looked at Zhao Xinin with a smile. "It happened that Fangji came to find me. Maybe I felt sorry for her, so I took her away. I think it was the fate between the two of them." "Yes, it must be fate." Lin looked at Zhao Xin. "It's just that her face isn't pretty, but she can be promised a steward in the future." Zhao Xin lowered her head upon hearing this, with a hint of resentment in her eyes. Pretty face? What's wrong with her face? It's just that she suffered a little during the exile, so her skin looks a little rough. She actually wanted to be promised to a steward, and it was a pity that the old woman Lin could think of it. She will marry the prince in the future. She came to Tsong's yard and asked around, and found out that this was the former Dingwang Palace. The man who saved them that day was the former Tianshuan's god of war, the Prince of Dingwang. No wonder he had such a fascinating demeanor, and no wonder he built a mansion in the exile area that was no less than the palace. She must marry the prince. What steward? He is not even worthy of carrying her shoes. Shang Ruai saw her changing expressions, calmly drank a sip of tea, sneered in her heart. It was just as she thought. Where is Jingheng? Why didn't he come with you? Qin looked behind her. He has something to deal with, so he may not be able to come for dinner today. I will ask the kitchen to make some food for him later. You don't have to worry. Only the people in Shang Ruai's courtyard knew that He Jingheng had left for Bailing. They were all selected and trained by Shang Ruai personally, and they kept their mouths shut about this matter. Therefore, no one in the He mansion noticed that He Jingheng had been away from home for a few days. So that's how it is. Qin's tone was a little frustrated, and she sighed softly. Shang Ruai thought of Hiyuan, who was still in the manor in the county town. She was about to speak, but swallowed the words back. Now that only she knew that Hiyuan was still alive, she and He Jingheng planned to temporarily settle him there and take him back when the time was right. She looked at Qin's lonely appearance, and although she felt reluctant, she didn't say anything after all. The old princess sat in the first seat and sighed slightly. On this day last year, we were still in the capital. Who could have imagined that in just 1 year, the Dingwa Palace would end up like this? Grandmother. Hiyuni smiled. What's wrong with this? My brother no longer has to go to the battlefield, and we no longer have to worry all day long and live on thin ice in the capital. Even if we are in a high position, we still have trouble sleeping and eating. That kind of life is not as happy as today. She looked at Xiao Huang lying outside the door. Now she takes Xiao Huang with her wherever she goes. Even when she goes to the toilet, Xiao Huang is guarding outside. If she hadn't come here, how could she have such a cute tiger like Xiao Huang? Everyone couldn't help laughing when they saw her appearance. Lin smiled and joked. You little girl, everyone knows that your sister-in-law got you a tiger. Now it seems that your sister-in-law is really partial to you. Hiyuni looked at Shang Ruai, and her smile became even bigger. Lin cast her eyes on Xiao Huang lying at the door, feeling quite envious. She thought for a moment and said to Shang Ruai, Ruai, Auntie has an unwelcome request. Auntie, please tell me. I wonder if you can give us 2 of these tigers? I think these tigers are much more useful than the guards. Lin smiled and said, Besides, Fangji is about to give birth, and with a tiger guarding us, we have an extra layer of protection, and we feel more at ease.
No.
Before Shang Ruai could answer, Song Fangji waved her hand to refuse. No one expected her to have such a big reaction, and they were all stunned for a moment. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on her, she hurriedly explained, I have been extremely afraid of this kind of beast since I was a child, so don't let it stay in my yard. Lin nodded when she heard this. Yes, since you are afraid, it's fine, but it would be bad if it scares the fetus. Song Fangji's expression gradually eased. Zhao Xin, who was standing behind her, also looked at Xiao Huang with great fear. When she heard Song Fangji's refusal, she took a breath and finally let go of her worries. She looked at Shang Ruai with a hint of fear in her eyes. She never thought that Shang Ruai, looking at such a weak and frail body, could tame a tiger. The tiger's teeth were extremely sharp. She felt frightened every time she saw Xiao Huang yawning. Being able to tame this kind of beast to this extent, Shang Ruai's ferocity can be imagined. Every time she thought of this, she would retreat a little. She believed that she was definitely not as good as a tiger. If she let the tiger bite her, she would be torn into pieces in an instant and become food for the tiger. Lin touched Song Fangji's belly and said with a smile, After the New Year's Day, the baby in Fangji's belly will come out, and our He family will be lively. Yes. The old princess also smiled. We haven't had such a small child in the He family for many years. She looked at the baby in Xiaoyao's arms and waved. Xiaoyao handed the child to the old princess. During this period, he drank milk every day, and Shang Ruai gave her spiritual spring water from time to time. The child has grown a lot compared to when he first came back, and has become more and more lovely, with big eyes and 2 dimples at the corners of his mouth when he smiles. The old princess looked at the 2 dimples, and her expression paused. "Mom, what's wrong?" He Ziyuan asked. "Nothing. It's just that the child looks somewhat familiar." The old princess smiled. "I worry too much." "How can you tell whether a child this old looks like him?" He Ziyuan said. "How can it be such a coincidence? Jing Heng and Roy just happened to save the child of an acquaintance." The old princess said nothing, but couldn't help but look at the child in the cradle a few more times. "Have you given her a name?"
No.
Speaking of this, Shang Roy smiled embarrassedly. "There have been too many things recently, and I haven't been able to calm down to give her a name. Does Grandma have any good names? If Grandma can give a name, it will be a blessing for this child." The old princess thought for a while, and said softly, "The rain falls in the river, and the white dew is not dried. You will be called Weishi." Weishi, a good name. Shang Ruoi took the little Weishi and said with a smile, "From today on, you will be called He Weishi." The baby seemed to understand and giggled. After dinner, the whole family was busy in the main hall for a long time until the old princess dismissed them and everyone went back to rest. Shang Ruai returned to the room. She flashed into the space. Xiaobai threw himself on her and rubbed her hand with his big head. Shang Ruai thought of Song Fengji's abnormal appearance at dinner time, and her heart sank. "I don't know since when, Song Fengji is no longer as close to me as before, and she no longer goes to Hyun's yard. I hope I'm overthinking." She looked at the fruits in the space. They can be planted in the greenhouse next year. When the weather gets hot, the shop will also need to launch new drinks. When she came to the pool, there were a lot of white fish in it. She hadn't eaten fish for a long time, and she was a little greedy. There are not many lakes in Qingzhou, so there are fewer fish. Since she came here, she rarely eats fish and shrimp. She was about to catch one to grill and try it, and the tigers in the space suddenly became agitated. Shang Ruai frowned. Animals are much more sensitive to danger than humans. They looked like this. Something must have happened outside. She looked outside the space and saw 3 men in black appearing in the room. The 3 men were sturdy and strong, and it was obvious that they were martial artists. At this time, they were looking for something in the room. "Boss, that woman is not here." TSK, such a good opportunity is wasted." "Sure, keep your voice down." A man whispered, "When we find the ring, the master will definitely reward us heavily. Then we will go to the brothel and pick a few girls. Can the women in the brothel be the same as this rich lady?" Okay, hurry up and find her. The woman will be back soon." The 3 thought that their whereabouts were hidden and not discovered by anyone, but in fact, their every move was seen clearly by Shang Ruai in the space. Shang Ruai was a little confused. Where did these people enter the mansion? Why didn't the secret guards outside find anything? "It's not here." The leading man stood in front of the dressing table and rummaged through the jewelry box. There were only a few hairpins in it. Shang Ruai didn't like complicated ornaments, and the jewelry box looked very shabby. At this moment, a faint fragrance came. At first, they didn't notice it. After a while, they felt that their strength was disappearing little by little. "Something's wrong, hurry up." When they reacted, it was too late. At this time, they couldn't even move a step. Shang Ruai walked out of the space and suddenly appeared in front of the 3 people, almost scaring them to death. You, where did you come from?" "I should be asking you this question." Shang Ruai sneered and said, "You 3 thieves are so bold that you dare to come here to steal." She lit the candle, and the room suddenly lit up. At this time, they had collapsed to the ground and couldn't move. "How did you get in?" The 3 looked at each other, clenched their teeth, and kept silent. At this moment, there was a sound of fighting outside the door. Shang Ruai's eyes darkened, and she came to the window, opened the window and looked outside. I saw an old man fighting with the secret guards. This old man looked familiar. He was the one who kidnapped He Jinghe before. The three people lying on the ground saw the old man through the gap and gritted their teeth secretly. It's that old guy again. Brother, if that old guy got the ring first, the master would definitely skin us alive. I know, he said angrily. If we let him get it, we will die. Shang Rui raised her eyebrows when she heard it and came to the courtyard. When the old man saw her, he dodged the attack of the secret guards like a ghost and rushed straight to her. Seeing this, the secret guards wanted to stop him, but it was too late. This man's martial arts was too high, and they were no match for him. Shang Rui showed a look of fear on her face and stretched out her hand to cover her face. A jade ring fell into the old man's eyes, and he saw his eyes flashed and stretched out his hand to grab her fingertips. Shang Rui felt her fingers empty, and the ring on her thumb fell into the old man's hand. Bold thief! Give me the ring back! Shang Rui shouted loudly. Come on!
Catch him!
Upon hearing this, all the guards drew their swords and surrounded the old man. A bunch of ants. The old man sneered, swung his hand, and a powerful force swept out. The surrounding secret guards were blown away before they could get close. The old man sneered, Without He Jinghe, you are not worth mentioning in my eyes. Shang Rui frowned when she heard this. How did he know that He Jinghe was not in mansion? Could it be that his whereabouts were exposed? He looked at Shang Rui, and then at the ring in his hand. Today, for the sake of the ring, I will spare your life. Don't fall into my hands next time, otherwise, you will die without knowing how. The panic on Shang Rui's face disappeared, and the corners of her lips curled slightly. Really? Seeing her like this, the old man's eyes showed a hint of suspicion. The Shang Rui in front of him was completely different from the one just now. Before he could think, he heard Shang Rui say, I think you are mistaken. It is still unknown who will not let go of whom. As soon as she finished speaking, the old man felt something was wrong. The next moment, he felt that the internal force in his body disappeared instantly, and his body, which was originally in midair, fell uncontrollably from a high altitude. You. He looked at Shang Rui with anger in his eyes. You poisoned, and you actually used such a despicable means. Despicable? Shang Rui sneered. All is fair in war. You think this is a despicable means, but I think this is my way to defeat the enemy. Moreover, you have outstanding martial arts skills, but you come to rob a little girl like me. Don't you feel ashamed? She waved her hand, and several guards were ready to step forward and tie him up. At this moment, the old man's eyes flashed with a fierce look, and he flipped his palm, and a mechanism box appeared in his hand. He pressed it hard, and a dense and fine needle flew towards him. Each needle was shining green, obviously poisoned. The guards who rushed in front were all hit, and they died of poisoning as soon as they fell. Shang Rui's eyes were cold, and he took out a pistol from his waist and pulled the trigger with lightning speed. The bullet passed through the box in his hand and directly pierced his palm.
Ah!
The old man screamed, looking at the bloody hole in his palm and the smashed box, and looked at Shang Rui in disbelief. What kind of magic did you use? Magic? Shang Rui curled her lips. I'm afraid you don't have any knowledge, but you actually regard firearms as magic. She rolled her eyes and said with a smile, Yes, how could someone of unknown origin like you know such a powerful firearm? This is unique to Bailing. As soon as she finished speaking, she heard the old man shouting, You are talking nonsense. He held his palm with blood flowing. Bailing has never had such a firearm.
How did you know?
Shang Rui sneered. Are you from Bailing? The old man heard this, without saying a word, but just stared at her hatefully. There was a flash of silver in Shang Rui's hand, and 2 silver needles appeared in the palm of her hand. With a sudden swing, the 2 silver needles went straight into the old man's body. In an instant, he didn't even have the strength to move his fingers.
What did you do to me?
Nothing. Shang Rui rolled her eyes at him. It's just to prevent you from hurting others. She said to the people behind her, Lock him up and keep him under strict watch.
Yes.
Shang Ruai returned to the room, and the three people lying on the ground were shocked to see her walk in intact. She came in, but where was the old man?
What are you looking at?
Shang Ruai sat on the chair. Xiaoyao brought a cup of hot tea, and was shocked when she saw the people lying on the ground. They ran into the young lady's room silently. If something happened, what should they do? Young lady, you.
I'm Fine.
Shang Ruai glanced at the people on the ground. How did you get in? The three looked at each other, moved their lips, and said nothing. Shang Ruai narrowed her eyes slightly, and a dagger appeared in her hand without knowing when. The candlelight fell on it, and the sharp blade made people tremble with fear. I don't like to force others. Since you don't want to talk, then don't talk. As soon as she finished speaking, the three men didn't have time to laugh. She flicked her wrist, and the dagger flew over. There was a scream, and the dagger sank into a man's leg. The bright red blood flowed all over the ground, which was shocking to watch. I don't like to force others, and I don't like others not to answer my questions. You kept silent, and I thought you were dumb. Now it seems that you can talk. After she finished speaking, another dagger appeared in her hand. With a faint excitement in her eyes, she looked at the other man and said, Just now it was confirmed that he is not dumb. Now it's your turn.
No, no, no.
He shook his head hurriedly and said loudly, I'll tell you. What do you want to ask? I'll tell you everything. I thought she would stop, but Shang Ruai didn't blink, and the dagger in her hand flew out again. It happened to pierce his leg, and the wound was exactly the same as the man just now. Even the location of the shot was exactly the same. I don't like waiting for people. When you want to answer, I don't want to listen anymore. The screams continued. Shang Ruai picked her ears and moved her eyes to the last man, who was the boss mentioned by the thief. Before Shang Ruai could speak, she heard him shouting, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. We got in through a dog hole. Dog hole? How is that possible? You are looking at me and fooling me, right? How could there be a dog hole here? Really? It's just outside the wall of a side courtyard. Remote. Could it be the courtyard of Aunt Zhao and her family? Since they left, no one has lived in that courtyard. Really, we dare not lie, we really got in through the dog hole. Who is the master you're talking about? She said coldly. And that old man, do you know him? I know him. When the old man was mentioned, the man was even more anxious than she was. He is from Tianwai Villa. She had never heard of Tianwai Villa, but the old man knew He Jingheng, so He Jingheng must know the details of Tianwai Villa. What about you? Shang Ruai glanced at them. What force do you belong to? We are from Zingaman. The man stammered, Zingaman. Shang Ruai narrowed her eyes slightly, smiled, and said, I think you Zingamen are not the opponent of Tianwai Villa. Otherwise, why did the old man run away? But I caught you? What? Ran away? The three of them gritted their teeth. They didn't expect that they would be at a disadvantage again. Seeing this, Shang Ruai's eyes flashed slightly, and she said slowly, But I can consider giving you a chance to make meritorious service. As long as you can draw the location and structure of Tianwai Villa, I can let you go. Really? The man said loudly. Of course. Shang Ruai's eyes flashed with coldness. That old guy actually dared to steal such an important thing. When I catch him, I will definitely skin him alive. As soon as Shang Ruai finished speaking, the man hurriedly asked, What did he steal? What does it have to do with you? Shang Ruai glanced at them and raised her jade hand. The man thought that his leg would also be stabbed, and he quickly shrank his neck in fear. After a long while, the expected pain did not come. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Xiaoyao standing in front of him with a pen and paper. Draw the blueprint and I will let you go. Shang Ruai whispered. The man got up from the ground and held the pen in his hand. Are you saying this? Really? She waved her hand. It's useless for me to take your lives. I don't want to see blood on New Year's Day. It's very unlucky. Hearing this, the man wrote on the paper. In less than an incense stick of time, a complete layout map was drawn. Shang Ruai looked at the blueprint in her palm and raised her eyebrows slightly. I didn't expect you to be so good at drawing. Tianwai Villa is our mortal enemy. Our Xinghe Gate has long been aware of their layout. He pointed to a secret door on the blueprint and said, "We have found out that there is a secret door here that leads to a manor behind the villa. There is a woman kept in that manor. She is the mistress of the owner of Tianwai Villa." Speaking of Tianwai Villa, there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. "Miss, you don't know that the wife of the owner of Tianwai Villa is a tigress. She doesn't allow the owner to take concubines, so the owner has to keep a concubine outside secretly."
TSK, TSK, TSK.
Shang Ruai was in no mood to listen to his nonsense. She put away the blueprint, looked at them, and said, "I have always kept my promises. If I said I would let you go, I will not break my promise. Of course, if you dare to lie to me and fool me with fake blueprints, I will order people to chase you to the end, even if you go to the ends of the earth." She waved her hand, and a white smoke rose up. "The poison in your body has been eliminated, but there is still some residue. If I find out that you are lying, it will activate the toxins in your body. If you explode and die, don't blame me." When the three heard it, their faces suddenly turned ugly. They didn't expect that she still had a backup plan. "Miss, this blueprint is real." "That's better." Shang Ruai waved her hand. "You go." "I will definitely go to Zingaman." "Thank you for your kindness, miss." Several people left the He mansion and looked back at the brightly lit mansion with extremely ugly faces. "Boss, that woman said that old man He-chin took away something very important. It must be the ring." He covered the wound on his leg and said in a deep voice, "We failed in this mission, and the master may punish us in some way." "Yes, He-chin is a martial arts master and he personally took action. He must be coming for the ring. We have to go back and tell the master that the ring was taken away by the people of Tianwai Villa. If the master knew that it was taken by He-chin, he would not blame us too much." Shang Ruai stood by the window, and Xiaoyao put on her outer robe. "Miss, we obviously caught that person. Why do you say he escaped?" "The hermit has his own clever plan." Shang Ruai smiled. Since everyone wanted the ring, she might as well spread the word and make Tianwai Villa the target of public criticism. At that time, she could easily catch Tianwai Villa in one fell swoop. She came to the most remote room. At this time, He-chin had been tied to a pillar. Seeing her come in, He-chin snorted coldly. "I didn't expect that after a lifetime of success, I would be tricked by a little kid like you," he said in a deep voice. "I still haven't figured out when you poisoned me." Shang Ruai shook the ring on her hand. "Aren't you here for this?" He-chen's pupils shrank slightly. "You actually poisoned the ring. With so many people coveting this ring, I naturally have to think of some countermeasures." Shang Ruai smiled. "But I'm very curious. What do you want this broken ring for?" He-chen looked at the ring on her hand and sneered. "What do you know as a woman? This emerald ring is more than just a decoration. It is the symbol of the Dingwa Palace." Shang Ruai said lightly. "But now the Dingwa Palace no longer exists, and this ring is just a thought. I really don't understand what the point of your succession is. Why is it meaningless? What's the point?" Shang Ruai sneered. "You don't think it's true, as the rumors say, that this ring is the key to some secret treasure? Or some nonsense that if you get the ring, you can command millions of soldiers?" She couldn't help laughing. "If there really are millions of soldiers and countless treasures, do you think the Dingwa Palace will still suffer in this wild land? Wouldn't it be better to overthrow the court and become the emperor? According to the prestige of the Dingwa Palace over the years and its status in the hearts of the people, if there is a day of rebellion, people all over the world will only think it is the fault of the court." Her words made He-chin fall into deep thought. After a while, he looked at Shang Ruai and said in a hoarse voice, "How do you know so much?" "Not only do I know so much, I also know. Is it He Jinghe, that dog thing, who told you these things?" Shang Ruai was right. After He Jinghe was taken to Tianwai Villa, he told them everything about the ring without them interrogating. I guessed it was him, He Jing, and that. Ever since he was kicked out of the He family, he has been unwilling to resign himself to it and has been spreading rumors and fanning the flames everywhere, wishing to kill our family. "But is he still in your Tianwai Villa?" He-chin was shocked. "How do you know I am from Tianwai Villa?" "I knew it when you took He Jinghe away." Xiaoyao, who was standing not far behind her, lowered her head when she heard this. She was really afraid that she would not be able to help laughing. Her young lady was really amazing. She just fooled those three idiots, and now she fooled the old man. He-chun gritted his teeth and simply stopped talking. If you don't want to say it, then forget it. Shang Ruai said lightly. I can let you go, but I have a condition. What condition?
Send Hee-jingha back to me.
Shang Ruai's eyes were cold. The traitor of the He family must be brought back to the He family to be punished. She curled the corners of her lips. I advise you to go back and make it clear to your owner. If I don't see Hee-jingha alive in the He family in a month, don't blame me for going to the door directly to ask for him. Go to the door? Hee-chun couldn't help but sneer. I'm not bragging, but our Tianwai villa is not a place where anyone can come and go as they please. I didn't expect you to be so conceited. Shang Ruai said with a smile. There are a total of 9 formations outside your Tianwai villa. There are 2 Tai Chi Bagua formations after entering the gate of the villa. There is a 4 symbols constellation formation outside the main hall, and a 5 elements birth and death formation at the back door. With every word Shang Ruai said, Hee-chun's face turned paler. How did you know that? It's just a few formations. Do you really think no one can them? Shang Ruai sneered. No matter how you change the formations, they are full of loopholes in my eyes and are not worth mentioning. The moment Shang Ruai got the blueprint, she saw the trick. So don't be too conceited. You must know that there are always people who are better than you. Hee-chun finally lost the battle and said with a weak breath, when I return to the villa, I will send someone to send Hee-jingha back. Send him back alive and well. Okay. Shang Ruai took out half of the antidote and gave it to him. When he comes back, I will give you the remaining half. He swallowed half of the antidote and felt the strength in his body recover. If you don't fulfill your promise, I will not only go to the villa in person, but you will also not be able to get your antidote. She really wanted to bring Hee-jingha back and have a good trial to find out who was behind him. The next morning, before she got up, she heard a commotion outside the yard. After tossing until the second half of the night, she lay on the bed and felt extremely tired. After a while, she fell asleep. She didn't realize that when she was asleep, her heart lit up, and a pure energy flowed from her heart to her limbs, and all the fatigue in her body dissipated. The next morning, before she woke up, there was a noise in the yard. Shang Ruai opened her eyes and looked at the curtain in front of her. For a moment, she forgot where she was. It took a long time for her to come to her senses. She sat up straight and just wanted to stretch. She heard crackling sounds from all the joints in her body. What is going on? At this moment, she actually felt a burst of energy appearing in her body. She clenched her fists and closed her eyes to find out what was wrong with her body. Suddenly, she felt a force. Could it be that this is internal force? She stretched out her hand and waved it hard, and saw that the cup on the table seemed to be pulled by some force and fell straight to the ground. Hiss. That's right, this is really internal force. It's just asleep. How could internal force appear inexplicably in her body? She closed her eyes and her consciousness entered the space. At this time, the space was expanded several times, and the fish pond was also expanded several times. Shang Ruai was delighted to see this. With such a large pond, not to mention 10,000 or even 100,000 oysters can be raised. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Miss, are you up? Today is the first day of the first lunar month, and you have to get up early.
Come in.
Xiaoyao and Ingxue walked in together. The three of them just walked in and were stunned when they saw Shang Ruai. Miss, your face. Face? Shang Ruai put her hand on her face, and what she touched was not skin, but a layer of sticky stuff. She hurriedly got up and came to the bronze mirror, only to see that her originally fair skin was covered with a layer of black stuff. She immediately realized that it should be the upgrade of the space that removed the remaining impurities in her body. It's okay, just get a basin of warm water. Xiaoyao heard the words and trotted to bring the warm water over. The black stuff was washed away by her bit by bit, and when she revealed her original appearance, the three people's eyes lit up. Miss, you have become more beautiful, Xiaoyao said in surprise. Just using that layer of black stuff can make people more beautiful? Xiao Yao's words made Shang Ruai's heart move. Isn't she talking about the mask? Yes. I can open a skincare shop here, she said to Xiao Yao. My dear Xiao Yao, you really helped me a lot. She had a smile on her face. Today is the first day of the first lunar month. Each person will be given 10 taels of silver to wish for a good start. Thank you, Mississippi. She came to the old princess's yard. At this time, Song Fangji had not come yet. The old princess looked behind her. Is Jingheng still not back? At this time, a skirt appeared in Shang Ruai's peripheral vision. She smiled and said, Grandma, Jingheng still has things to do. When he finishes, he will definitely come to pay his respects to you. As soon as the voice fell, Song Fangji walked in from the corner with the help of Zhao Xin.
Pay your respects to Grandma.
You are heavy, sit down quickly. What's the importance of these empty formalities? The old princess said hurriedly. Song Fangji was a little sluggish, her face was not very good, and she couldn't cheer up. Seeing this, Lin couldn't help but say worriedly, Fangji, are you feeling uncomfortable? Song Fangji shook her head. Maybe I didn't rest well yesterday. Shang Ruai walked up to her and felt her pulse. After a while, she couldn't help but frowned. Have you been anxious and having abdominal pain these days? Song Fangji nodded. Yes, but mother said that I am about to give birth now, and this symptom is normal. Shang Ruai's face was cold, and her eyes were very serious. He Jingxi asked nervously, Sister-in-law, what happened to Fangji? The fetus is in an abnormal position, and it must be induced immediately. She looked at Lin and said, Third aunt, where's the midwife? The midwife has been at home. To be on the safe side, Lin invited 3 midwives. Shang Ruai took out a silver needle and applied a few needles on the back of Song Fangji's hand. Her face was much relieved, but she still felt anxious. At this moment, a drop of blood dripped down.
Blood. Blood.
Bleeding. He Jingxi shouted. Why are you shouting? Shang Ruai said in a deep voice. Why don't you carry her back to the yard? Okay. He Jingxi recovered and carried Song Fangji back to the yard. At this time, waves of abdominal pain came, and Song Fangji's face suddenly turned pale. Song Fangji bit her lips tightly, clutched her clothes with both hands, and beads of sweat dripped from her head. Child, my child. Song Fangji said in a trembling voice. Sister-in-law, you must save the child. I'm here, don't worry. Shang Ruai took out the spiritual spring water for her to drink. A force appeared in her body. Listen to the midwife later. I'll take care of everything. Shang Ruai held her hand. No matter what, I will keep you and your child safe. Shang Ruai stood outside the curtain, and Song Fangji's cries of pain could be heard from time to time. The old princess and Qin were waiting in the main hall. The old princess murmured, Amitabha, Bodhisattva bless, ancestors bless, Fangji and her child must be safe. Qin was also a little restless and kept sending servants to inquire about the news. He Ziyuan's hand holding the teacup kept shaking. On the surface, he looked very calm, but in fact, his heart had been turbulent for a long time. As the first child in the family, everyone attached great importance to him. Lin kept turning around in the main hall, which gave He Ziyuan a headache. He put the teacup on the table. Sit down, stop turning around, it makes me dizzy. Yes, third daughter-in-law. Please sit down. The old princess was already anxious, and she was even more upset when she turned around. Oh, I can hear Fangzi's screams in the main hall. How can I sit down? She wiped the tears from her face with a handkerchief. We are all women. How can we not know how painful it is to give birth to a child?
Oh.
Qin sighed and said, Fangji is a lucky person. She will definitely turn danger into safety. Besides, Ruai is by her side. Fangji and the child will be fine. Thinking of Shang Ruai, Lin's heart was slightly relieved. Fangji has always been in trouble since the day she became pregnant, and she almost had a miscarriage several times. If this child can be born safely, it will be God's blessing. At this moment, a maid ran in a panic. Oh no, oh no.
Madam.
Young madam. The young madam fainted.
What?
Lin put on her outer robe and ran out quickly. Song Fangji was exhausted and suddenly fainted, scaring the midwife. Young madam, young madam. Shang Ruai heard the voice and hurried in. What's going on? Oh no, the young madam fainted. The midwife said anxiously, the baby's fetal position is not right to begin with, and now we are really powerless. We pinched the Ren philtrum and fed her ginseng soup, but there is no response at all. Shang Ruai opened the curtain and walked in. At this time, Song Fangji was lying on the bed with a pale face, as if all her energy was exhausted. She stepped forward quickly and felt her pulse. It's bad. All the strength in her body is used up, and now even the spiritual spring water may not wake her up. But now the delivery is imminent. If she can't wake up, she and the baby in her belly will be in danger. Now, only a cesarean section can be performed. But how will the people here accept her approach? Save the big one or the small one? The midwife's words echoed in her mind. Shang Ruai's pupils shrank slightly, and she said to the people in the room, Everyone, all go out. No one is allowed to step into the room without my order. Remember, no one. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Driving everyone out now is undoubtedly a declaration of giving up. Madam, considering the current condition of the third young lady, it is still possible to save one. The midwife looked at Song Fangji lying on the bed, feeling a little bit reluctant. After all, these are 2 lives. That's why I let you all go out. Shang Ruai urged. Hurry. Madam, what are you doing? A female voice came from the side. Zhao Xin stepped forward and said angrily, Our young lady is clearly still breathing. Why don't you allow her to be treated? When did I say I wouldn't treat her? Shang Ruai sneered. You are a servant. How dare you yell at the master here? Who taught you the rules? My rules were taught by the third young lady. I was brought into the yard by the third young lady, so I will always be grateful to the third young lady for her kindness. I will never stand seeing the young lady bullying my young lady by relying on her kindness, and now she even dares to murder her and her unborn child. As a close servant of the third young lady, I can't let you do this even if it costs my life. Zhao Xin's eyes flashed slightly. It would be great if he could use Song's life to drive Shang Ruai out of the mansion. By then, with her appearance, wouldn't the 2 young masters in the mansion be fascinated by her? Everything Shang Ruai has will be hers. When the time comes, she will bring her parents over. Her life will surely be more comfortable than before in the county governor's mansion. Thinking of this, she felt even happier, as if she would soon be able to live the life she imagined. Are you jealous that our young lady is pregnant, and it is very likely to be a son, the eldest son and grandson of the He family, so you deliberately don't let the midwife deliver the baby properly? As soon as she finished speaking, Shang Ruai slapped her in the face. Because she had just gained internal strength and could not control the strength, this slap directly slapped her 2 meters away, and half of her face was visibly swollen. Her words fell into the ears of Liu, and the old princess who came all the way. What's going on? The old princess stepped forward quickly. What happened? Lin grabbed Shang Ruai's hand and asked, Where is Fangji? How is Fangji? Before Shang Ruai could answer, Zhao Xinin seemed to have found a backer and knelt in front of Lin crying, Madam, please save our young lady. Lin frowned. What's going on? Aunt, I don't have time to explain now. Let everyone leave first. I will treat Fangji myself. If you delay any further, it will be too late. Hearing this, Lin nodded hurriedly. Okay, Aunt believes you. Her eyes fell on Zhao Xinin and she whispered, Didn't you hear what the young lady said? Back off. Zhao Xinin didn't expect the He family to trust Shang Ruai so much, and no one paid attention to what she said. She wanted to say something to delay time, but her arms were clamped by a pair of strong hands, and her body fell backwards uncontrollably. She turned her head and saw that it was Yingyue, the maid next to Shang Ruai. She didn't expect that she had such great strength. Madam, save our young lady. Before she could finish her words, she was dragged out by Yingyue. Without my permission, even if the King of Heaven comes, you must guard this door for me. There was a trace of internal force in her words, and all the secret guards in the courtyard were shocked. Yun Tian, who had just recovered from his injury and was about to pay his respects, suddenly stopped. Is this the Crown Prince's consort? When did the Crown Prince's consort have internal force? He only recovered from his injury for more than a month. What happened during this period? He pulled the guard beside him and asked, How long have I been recovering from my injury? Yunwei, you have been recovering for less than a month. After walking a few steps, he pulled another guard. How long have I been recovering from my injury? Less than a month. Hearing this, he couldn't help but quicken his pace and walked towards Song's yard. After everyone left, Shang Ruai took out a syringe and injected anesthetic into her body. After confirming that she was completely unconscious, Shang Ruai waved her hand and brought her into the space. The consciousness flashed, and the next moment, Song was already on the operating table. Shang Ruai picked up the scalpel and began the operation with ease. He Jingxi was waiting anxiously at the door. Lin clenched her hands and said to He Jingxi beside her, Don't turn around, don't turn around.
I'm dizzy.
Mom, Fangzhi will be okay, right? Without waiting for Lin to answer, Zhao Xin knelt on the ground with a plop. Master, please save the third young master's wife. The young master has no good intentions at all. She is jealous of the third young master's wife's pregnancy and wants to harm her. She doesn't let the midwife deliver the baby. Now the third young master's wife is in a coma. Isn't her life and death in her hands? Hearing this, He Jingxi's eyes were full of doubts. What nonsense are you talking about? Lin walked forward, raised her hand, and slapped her in the face fiercely. Little, you dare to slander Ruai. You are so bold. Zhao Xinin's head was hit to the side, and she looked at Lin in disbelief. Madam, how dare you spread rumors here? What kind of character is Ruai? How can you, a servant, comment on it casually? Zhao Xinin was still unwilling to give up. Madam, the young lady just doesn't want our third young lady to give birth to the eldest son and grandson of the He family and wants her child to monopolize the He family's property. Shut up. The old princess knocked the dragon-headed crutch in her hand fiercely and said angrily, Come on, drag her away, give her 50 lashes, and wait for her punishment. As soon as the old princess finished speaking, Xiaoyao stepped forward. Old madam, the third young lady is giving birth now. It is not appropriate to see blood, or wait until our young lady helps the third young lady to deliver the baby before making any punishment. Look at me, I'm totally confused. The old princess nodded. Then hold her down first and wait for her fate. Xiaoyao winked at Ah Cheng, who stepped forward, tied Zhao Xinin up with a rope, and blocked her mouth and pushed her down. The cesarean section was just a minor operation for Shang Ruai. It didn't take long to take out the fetus in Song's belly, suture the wound, and then take her back to the bed. The crying of the baby reached everyone's ears. It's born. It's born. Lin said loudly. It's really born. He Jingxi was overjoyed. Mom, I'm a father. I'm really a father. After saying that, he was ready to rush into the room. At this moment, a figure blocked him in front of him. Third master, our world. Young lady said that without her permission, even the king of heaven can't enter. He Jingxi heard this, touched his nose, and stepped back. After a while, Shang Ruai's voice came. Yun Tian, let them in. He Jingxi rushed forward, and at this moment, the midwife stepped forward and said loudly, Master, you can't come in. You can't come in. Why is that? Men can't go in when women are giving birth. It's unlucky. Wait until the servants clean up the room, and then you can go in. The old princess nodded. Jingxi, the midwife is right. You wait outside. The midwives went in and were about to take the child from Shang Ruai's arms when they heard Shang Ruai say, Where is He Jingxi? Madam, I'll take the child to the third young master to have a look. There is still blood in the room. It's unlucky for a man to come in. Let the young master come in after everything is cleaned up. Shang Ruai frowned, and a trace of anger surged in her heart. Thinking that Song was still thinking about giving birth to a child for He Jingxi when her life was in danger, she wanted to kick He Jingxi indirectly. Giving birth is hard enough, and the blood from giving birth is also despised. If it weren't for her today, Song might really die of dystocia. She shouted angrily, "He Jingxi, come in." "Oh, madam, you can't come in, you can't come in. It's unlucky." Hearing this, He Jingxi hurriedly pushed the door open, and the old princess and Lin followed in. The strong smell of blood rushed into his nose, and He Jingxi was horrified. "Sister-in-law, is there something wrong with Fangji?" Shang Rui put the child in her arms and his hands. "Your son, don't you want to hold him yourself?"
Son.
Lin's smile became even bigger. At this time, the baby had fallen asleep, and it seemed that the posture of holding him was a little uncomfortable, and he immediately burst into tears. How could He Jingxi hold a child? He couldn't help but stiffen all over. Upon seeing this, Lin hurriedly took the child and glared at He Jingxi. "You can't even hold a child properly." The old princess was also very happy to hear that it was a boy, but she was a little confused. "Ruai, you let Jingxi come in just to hold the baby?" Shang Ruai nodded. "That's right. Ruai, since ancient times, it has been very unlucky for a man to enter the delivery room. Why do you have to let him in?" Shang Ruai smiled. "Grandma, why is it unlucky for a man to enter the delivery room? Where did this dregs come from?" "Dregs?" Shang Ruai's words made the faces of everyone present change suddenly. "How dare you disrespect your ancestors? Everything passed down by our ancestors must be good? We must abide by it?" Shang Ruai sneered. "Since ancient times, a new emperor has to reenact laws and re-establish rules when he ascends the throne. What does this mean? It means that many of the previous things are dross. Otherwise, why not just continue to use them?" She didn't care about the faces of the people present and continued. "It is extremely hard for a woman to be pregnant for 10 months, and it is extremely dangerous to give birth. The mother fights for her life to give birth to a new life. In this process, what did the man do? He can neither share the hardship of pregnancy nor empathize with the difficulties of childbirth. Can it be said that he can't even provide the first-time care after giving birth? It's ridiculous to say that men can't enter the delivery room for some reason." Shang Ruai looked at He Jingxi. "Fangji survived a life-threatening situation today to give birth to the child. Who of you asked her how she was when you entered the room?" Shang Ruai's words stunned everyone in the room, especially the old princess and Lin. In their minds, it was normal for a woman to get pregnant and give birth, and they had never thought about it so much. He Jingxi said in a hoarse voice, "Sister-in-law, how did Fangji survive?" Shang Ruai sighed. "If I hadn't learned the medical skills of cesarean section from my master, I'm afraid both mother and child would have died today." "What? Cesarean section?" Everyone was shocked when they heard this. "Cesarean section to get the baby?" Lin asked in surprise. "How is Fangji now?" Shang Ruai said softly. "It's okay. The wound has been sutured, and it will heal within 10 days, and it will be back to normal in more than a month." Although she said so, everyone's face was still very ugly. At this time, there was a faint movement on the bed. Hiss. Song Fangji moved, and the pain in her abdomen made her cry out in a low voice. "Don't move." Shang Ruai walked forward. "You still have a wound on your abdomen. You must be extremely careful no matter what you do these days." "Wound?" Song Fangji said in surprise. "How can there be a wound? I just performed a cesarean section on you." "Cesarean section?" Although Song Fangji didn't know what a cesarean section was, it was not difficult to understand the word cesarean section. She didn't know anything about what happened after she fell into a coma due to dystocia. When her consciousness faded, she thought she couldn't get through this level. At this time, she no longer cared about the pain in her body and struggled to sit up. "I told you not to move now." Shang Ruai held her down. "The child is fine. He has fallen asleep."
Con Fangji pauset, tia pha ling un con to lan.
"Sister-in-law, thank you, thank you." She cried and said, I thought. "Don't think too much. Now you and your child are safe, which is more important than anything else." At this moment, He Jingxi stepped forward and wanted to hold Song Fangji's hand, but he was worried that his hands would freeze her. He rubbed them on his clothes for a long time before holding her hand and whispered, Fangji, you have suffered. With just one sentence, Song Fangji's tears fell even more fiercely. Lin came forward with the child in her arms. Song Fangji looked at the baby in the cradle and finally smiled. This is her child, the child she exchanged for her life. She looked at Shang Ruai. A complicated look flashed to her eyes, her lips moved slightly, and she didn't say anything else except thank you. The old princess looked at Shang Ruai's figure, thought about what she had just said, and her heart was slightly moved. Shang Ruai came to the main hall and ordered someone to bring Zhao Xinin over. The old princess whispered, Ruai, there is no need to interrogate her, just beat her with a stick and drive her out of the house. Zhao Xinin knelt on the ground and cried, Old madam, I really do care about the master. I am wronged. I do care about the master? Shang Ruai sneered. What are you thinking? Don't think I don't know. You are chattering there, aren't you just trying to stop me from treating Song? You are confusing right and wrong, sowing discord. A servant actually wants to ride on the master's head. Or you are planning to drag Song to death so that you have a chance to replace her. Let everyone think that I am jealous of Song. It would be best to blame Song's death on me, and drive me out of the house. She looked at Zhao Xinin, and seeing that her face was getting paler and paler, she knew that she had guessed it all. Your ultimate goal is nothing but the He family's money. You hope to live a parasitic life like you do in the county magistrate's mansion. Shang Ruoi sneered. You think you are smart enough, so you want to treat everyone as a fool. In fact, you are the real fool. Zhao Xin didn't expect that Shang Ruoi had guessed all her plans. She fell to the ground weakly. After a while, she said faintly, when did you know that? She said this, which was a confession. The old princess said angrily, Who do you think you are? How dare you have such dirty thoughts on our He family? What else can I say? Just punish me. Zhao Xin was shocked when she heard it, and hurriedly stood up. Why? I just come to your He family to work. I haven't signed a contract to sell myself, let alone a death contract. Why should I let you punish me? Now that her thoughts were exposed by Shang Ruai, she didn't plan to continue pretending. She simply stood up and looked at the old princess and Shang Ruai coldly. You are just exiled prisoners. Do you think you are the princess and the prince's consort of the Dinghua Palace? I haven't broken the law. Why do you punish me? The old princess was furious when she heard it. Although her property was confiscated and she was exiled, she still had the pride of a royal family in her bones. Now that this fig leaf was lifted in public, how could she bear it? You. Zhao Xin raised her chin slightly. What about the princess? What about the prince's wife? You are nothing now, and your descendants are also descendants of criminals. They will never be allowed to enter the government, forever and ever, and the Dinghua Palace will be criminals. As soon as she finished speaking, she was slapped her face. Shang Ruai did not hold back in this slap, and directly slapped her more than 2 meters away. She opened her mouth, and 2 teeth and blood came out of her mouth. Cough, cough, cough. Zhao Xin was dazed by the beating, and looked at her with horror. Shang Ruai walked forward step by step, looked down at her, and said in a cold voice, Nothing? Descendant of a criminal? Her face was serious, and she looked at her as if she was looking at a dead person. Do you know what the 4 words Dinghua Palace mean to Tianshan? Do you know how many soldiers of Dinghua Palace die on the battlefield for the people of Tianshan every year? Tianshan can have the peace it has today, and the people can live and work in peace and contentment. A large part of it is due to the credit of Dinghua Palace. Now that Dinghua Palace has been demoted and exiled, have all its past achievements been forgotten? Those soldiers who died for their country have lost their names?
Absolutely impossible.
Shang Ruai's words were like a shot of adrenaline, which cheered up everyone present. Yun Tianshou stood outside, his eyes slightly red. Whether exiled or demoted, they didn't care at all. In their hearts, whether the court recognized it or not, the Dinghua Palace would always exist. But what really made them sad was all the soldiers who were buried. Their brothers, for the sake of the common people, had lost their lives and property, and now they had to bear the infamy of criminals and traitors. If you were not a relative of Zhao Juanshou, I would not agree to keep you even if you broke your head last time. But now, if Lord Zhao knew, he would want to drive you away as soon as possible. At this time, Zhao Xinin's face was swollen like a pig's head. She stared, wanting to speak but not daring to speak, for fear that what she said would annoy her again. With her hand strength, a few punches would beat her half to death. Come on, kick her out of the palace. The old princess sat on the chair and knocked the ground heavily with her cane. The anger in her heart slowly dissipated. Looking at Shang Ruai's back, she couldn't help but nodded secretly. This granddaughter-in-law of mine is indeed different from others. Although she is very opinionated and even sneers at the rules of the ancestors, it is undeniable that every time she makes some emotional remarks, it always makes their blood boil and they feel comfortable from the bottom of their hearts. Yun Tian walked forward, lifted her up like a chicken, and threw her out of the house regardless of Zhao Xinin's struggle. It was the coldest time of the year, and the ground was very hard. Zhao Xin was thrown on it, and felt as if the bones in her body were broken. Yun Tian glanced at her. Get out of here, and don't show up in front of our wife again. On the first day of the first lunar month, Song gave birth to the eldest grandson of the He family and was very happy. All the servants in the He family were rewarded with 3 taels of silver. The news that Zhao Xin was driven out of the house soon reached everyone's ears. After hearing this, they became more careful and worked diligently, not daring to be negligent. Zhao Xin finally found his parents' residence. Zhao Jiwen and his wife were shocked to see a woman with a face as swollen as a pig's head. Who are you? Zhao Jiwen said in surprise.
Dad.
Zhao Xin stepped forward quickly, grabbed Zhao Jiwen's hand, and spoke with a leak. Zhao Jiwen was startled and said quickly, Girl, don't say that. I only have one daughter. He shook off Zhao Xinin's hand that was holding his arm. Zhao Xinin fell to the ground and spit out blood. Zhao Jiwen was so scared that he ran back home and closed the door. Seeing him so flustered, Lu couldn't help asking, What's wrong? It's not suitable to go out today. I just went out and met a lunatic. Zhao Jiwen said with lingering fear. She grabbed my arm as soon as she came up. Her face was as ugly as a pig. It was really scary. He patted his chest. Fortunately, I hid quickly. Otherwise, she would have blackmailed me. Lu wanted to open the door to take a look, but Zhao Jiwen quickly pulled her back. Don't go out to take a look. Are you afraid of being blackmailed by others? When Lu heard this, she quickly retracted her hand. Thinking about it, they are not as rich as they were in the county governor's mansion. They only have a few taels of silver. If they are blackmailed by others, they will starve to death before winter. Zhao Xin lay on the ground for a long time and couldn't get up. She didn't expect that she had finally come back, but was left outside by her own parents. It was the first month of the year, and it was the coldest time of winter. If she stayed outside like this for a day, she would be frozen to death. She crawled to the door with all her strength. Lu was still a little curious, and looked out through the small window. She happened to see her crawling into the yard with blood all over her face. She was so scared that she shouted loudly, Boss! Boss! Come quickly! That crazy girl is crawling into the yard. Zhao Jiwen got off the Kong immediately after hearing it, looked around, picked up a thicker wooden stick, and walked out. It's so unlucky that you ran to my house on the first day of the new year. I'll beat you to death. Boss, don't be impulsive.
It's not good to beat someone to death.
We have been exiled. If we beat someone to death again, we may have to pay with our lives. Then what do you say? What should we do? Why don't we just not open the door and ignore her screams? It's none of our business if she freezes to death outside. Lu's words made Zhao Jiwen's eyes light up. Madam is smart. He looked at the wooden stick in his hand and pushed the door shut from the inside. Zhao Xin finally climbed to the door and knocked on it vigorously. Lu stood in the room with her hands on her hips and spat. You come here to beg for food on New Year's Day. Isn't that unlucky? I won't open the door for you, and you'll freeze to death. Lu was originally from a small family, and she hooked up with Zhao Jiwen. Later, the couple shamelessly approached Zhao Zhili, and they always felt that they were from a wealthy family. In fact, the couple were no different from those farmers, and were even worse than farmers. Zhao Xin used all her strength to knock on the door. Dad and Mom, I'm Sheen.
I'm Sheen.
Her voice reached Lu's ears, and Lu blinked. Was she hallucinating? She said she was Sheen? Lu hesitated and walked forward, opening the doorway, and saw that although the woman was ugly, her figure was indeed similar to her daughter. Dad and Mom, I'm Sheen. Lu looked carefully, her eyes suddenly widened. Daughter.
Sheen.
She rushed out, turned around and shouted to Zhao Jiwen. Master.
Come in.
It's my daughter.
What?
Zhao Jiwen didn't even have time to put on his shoes and ran out barefoot. When Zhao Xiyin was carried to the Kong, she was already gasping for breath. Daughter, what's the matter? Aren't you working for the He family? How did you become like this? Lu looked at her distressfully. But what happened? Cough, cough, cough. Zhao Xiyin's face was pale, and she couldn't say a complete sentence. Seeing this, Lu hurriedly went to look in the box, and soon took out a porcelain bottle. This was given to them by Shang Ruai when they were at the He family. She saved her share, but she didn't expect to use it today. There was spiritual spring water in the porcelain bottle. After she drank half a bottle, Zhao Xiyin's face eased a lot. She told the couple Zhao about how she was kicked out. Zhao Jiwen slammed the table fiercely. This is too much. The He family actually kicked you out. What did Zhao Zhili and Hu do? They didn't even plead for you? Lu was also furious and said angrily, I knew that Zhao Zhili and his wife were unreliable. Now that Sheen has been kicked out, how can she be the mistress of the He family? Don't worry. Zhao Jiwen narrowed his eyes slightly. How dare you do this to us? I will definitely not let Zhao Zhili and his wife have an easy life, let alone let the He family have an easy life. After Tsong gave birth to the child, Shang Ruai had put her mind at ease. She was ready to leave for Bailing. After all, she had already agreed with the Bailing Li family to go to Bai Dongzhu after the new year. Miss, do you really not need us to accompany you this time? Ingyue was a little worried. The people of Bailing are fierce by nature. I'm afraid they will hurt you. Shang Ruai smiled. It's okay. Ah Ching is here, don't worry. Shang Ruai looked at Xiaoyao who was standing beside her. However, I do need a maid to take care of my daily life. Xiaoyao, are you willing to go with me? Upon hearing this, Xiaoyao's eyes lit up. Just as she was about to agree, she saw the mischievous smile in her young lady's eyes. Miss. Shang Ruai smiled. Why? You don't want to go? Then I'll have to let Sister Ingyue accompany me, and you'll have to guard the yard by yourself. Is it not okay for me to go? Miss is always making fun of me. Xiaoyao's cheeks flushed, and she didn't know whether she was angry or embarrassed. Shang Ruai looked at the worried look of Sister Ingyue, waved her hand, and a burst of energy suddenly appeared, and the teacup on the table shattered instantly. Internal force. Ingyue said in surprise, Miss, you have such a deep internal force. Shang Ruai smiled. I don't know why, but when I woke up that day, it was as if my Ren and Du meridians were opened, and I actually had internal force. All her words fell into the ears of Yuntian, who was about to knock on the door. Gaining internal force after sleeping? The Crown Prince's concubine lives just to attack people. He had never heard of anyone who cultivated his inner strength in his sleep. Shang Ruai was not lying. She had indeed gained this inner strength in her sleep. At this moment, Shang Ruai walked out of the room. Yuntian hurried forward and whispered, Princess, let me go with you. Shang Ruai shook her head. No, I will keep you here. It will be very useful. She looked in the direction of Tsong Fengji's yard. You stay in the mansion and must pay attention to Tsong's yard. Madam San Shao? Shang Ruai nodded. If she was right, Tsong Fengji must be hiding something from them. The previous incident in the mansion was investigated by someone, perhaps it was related to her. Taking advantage of the night, Shang Ruai took Xiaoyao and Ah Cheng away. As soon as she left, a man in black appeared in Tsong's yard. In the past few days, He Jingxi had been managing the shops in the town. It snowed heavily and the roads were not easy to walk on, so he didn't come back tonight. Tsong was just about to take a rest when she heard the window creak. Her heart tightened, and she quickly sat up and covered her wound, trying to hold the child in her arms. A woman in black appeared at the head of her bed and snatched the child away. Please don't hurt him. Song Fengji pleaded softly, please. He, if you want him to live, then have you done what I asked you to do? The woman had a veil on her face, and you could tell from her eyes that she was dressed like a Westerner. She was the Westerner who appeared in Zhao Junyi's room that day. Didn't I tell you all? He Jingheng's legs have recovered. Song Fengji's eyes were fixed on the child, fearing that the woman would throw the child on the ground. Recovered? She said angrily. How can he recover? He is clearly sitting in a wheelchair. The miracle doctor has seen that he is a. Do you know that your lie almost cost me my life? She put her hand on the baby's neck and slowly tightened it. Seeing this, Song Fengji hurriedly said, what I said is true. You are full of nonsense. You Tianshan people are really cunning. A fierce smile flashed in her eyes, and she said angrily, today, you will know what the price is for lying to me. A dagger appeared in her hand at some point, and she was about to cut the baby's arm.
No. No.
Song Fengji struggled to stand up and wanted to take the child back from her hands, but the woman would never let her succeed. She took a step back and stabbed the dagger in her hand straight into the baby's arm. At this moment, a silver needle suddenly shot at the back of the hand of the Western region woman. In just a moment, the hand could no longer move forward, and the whole person's body was nailed to the spot. What's going on? My body. Song Fengji hurriedly took the child away, ignoring the pain in her body, and ran to the door. At this moment, the door of the room was opened, and Shang Ruoi's figure appeared at the door. Song Fengji came up behind her in a hurry. Sister-in-law, help. Save me and the child. Shang Ruoi looked at her expressionlessly. After a while, she turned her head slightly, and Ingwa took a cloak and put it on her shoulders. Song Fengji's body was shaking constantly. Xu Wenmei was afraid that she would drop the child, so she wanted to take the child away, but Song Fengji held the child tightly in her arms and refused to let go. Seeing this, Xu Wenmei had to give up. You didn't leave. The woman in black said, gritting her teeth. Shang Ruoi walked slowly to the black-clad woman, reached out and took off her veil, and said in a cold voice, Who are you? Humph. She turned her head away and sneered. You are a lowly concubine. You are not worthy of knowing who I am. Really? Shang Ruoi smiled. In fact, I don't want to know who you are and who you work for. It doesn't matter whether you tell me or not. You are just a spy from the western regions, but I am very curious why you came to her. Shang Ruoi looked at Song Fengji, who was trembling all over, and whispered, I think, in addition to wanting to find out the news of a He family, you also want to get something from her. She remembered that when Song Fengji treated her before, she inadvertently said something about hiding something. You also sent her a threatening letter before. The Western region woman turned her head away and said nothing. Shang Ruoi was not in a hurry. She knew that it would be extremely difficult to get any useful information from her. She set her eyes on Song Fengji. At this moment, she suddenly saw a pattern looming on the woman's wrist. She reached out and lifted the woman's sleeve, only to see a red wing pattern appear on her wrist. Yun Tian frowned when he saw this. Chiyu Villa. The woman looked at Yun Tian and clenched her teeth. You know a lot. Princess Concubine, Chiyu Villa is famous for gathering information, but the people in the villa never participate in worldly disputes and will not send assassins to kill innocent people. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman seemed to be stimulated by something. Killing innocent people indiscriminately? We kill innocent people indiscriminately? Dingwa Palace, Song family, you know best what bad things you have done. The veins on her neck were exposed, the corners of her eyes were red, and she shouted loudly, You killed so many people. So many innocent people. Overnight, the whole family was destroyed and blood flowed like a river. Have you ever felt guilty? Yun Tian was confused by what she said. What nonsense was she talking about? When did their Dingwa Palace wipe out the entire family of others? No matter what the hatred is, it should not be blamed on the child. Shang Ruoi said coldly. He is still in swaddling clothes. How could you have the heart to do it? So what if it's a baby? She shouted harshly. My sister, she was born not long ago, only a dozen days old. Didn't you let her go? When I found her, She was abandoned on the cold ground. She was strangled to death. What did she do wrong? She said to Shang Ruai in a hoarse voice. What did she do wrong? Yun Tian whispered. Miss, are you remembering it wrongly? When has our Dingwa Palace done such a thing? Your master knows best whether we have done it or not. She looked at Shang Ruai. Since I fell into your hands, I never thought about living, but even if I die, I will become a fierce ghost and seek revenge on you. After she finished speaking, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her lips, and her body slowly fell down, without breath. Yun Tian walked forward and sniffed her breath. Dead. Shang Rui's face showed no expression. She just said lightly, take it away and bury it.
Yes.
The body was carried out, and Song Fengji's body trembled even more. Shang Ruai lowered her eyes. What do you want to say? Sister-in-law, I know I was wrong, but I really didn't tell them much. Song Fengji hugged the child tightly and cried. She threatened me that if I didn't do what they told me, she would kill my child. I was really scared. So you betrayed us. No, I just said something unimportant. Unimportant? Shang Rui's tone was already filled with anger. You said, He Jingheng's leg has recovered. You drew the topographic map of the mansion for them, right? She leaned down and said in a deep voice, This is not important? What else is important? Song Fengji lowered her head and said weakly, You heard it all. Now that things have come to this, do you have anything else to say? Song Fengji looked at the child in her arms. Sister-in-law, if I have made a contribution, can you not drive me away? Shang Ruai did not speak. She hated betrayal the most. No matter who it was, as long as they betrayed her once, she would never forgive them. Song Fengji smiled self-deprecatingly. She saved herself from danger time and time again and tried her best to save her life and the life of her child, but she betrayed her and the He family. She kissed the baby in her arms, handed it to Yingyue beside her, got up with difficulty, walked to the bed, tore open the pillow, and found a piece of golden cloth inside. She handed the cloth to Shang Ruai. This is what my father gave me before I was exiled. What is this? The treasure of the royal family of the previous dynasty. Song Fengji whispered. Long before he was exiled, my father knew that the Song family was being targeted by others, just because he accidentally got such a treasure map. As everyone knows, my father loves to travel. When he was traveling in a mountain stream, it suddenly rained heavily, so he hid in a cave. In the cave there were some supplies of the royal family of the previous dynasty. It was there that he found such a drawing, which was obviously a map. Not long after my father brought it back, the house was robbed several times. I guess it was because of this. To be on the safe side, my father gave me the drawing, thinking that the Dingwa Palace must be the safest place in the entire Tianshan. Who would have thought that he was exiled? Is this the thing you said was hidden before?
Kong Fangji not dead.
In fact, she was sober that day and deliberately said it for Shang Ruai to hear. Sister-in-law, I don't know what the treasure of the previous dynasty contains, and I don't ask for your forgiveness. I know that I am unforgivable. After I die, please take good care of my children. Shang Ruai frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, When did I say that I would let you commit suicide? Song Fengji was stunned. Sister-in-law, a mother's heart can really make people confused. I forgive you this time. If there is a next time, I will definitely take your life. Shang Ruai handed her the map. What royal treasure of the previous dynasty? I don't care. Song Fengji's tears burst out instantly. Regardless of the pain of her wound, she knelt on the ground. Sister-in-law, thank you. Shang Ruai turned around and wanted to leave, but Song Fengji grabbed her skirt. Sister-in-law, it is safer to keep this treasure map with you. Seeing her sincere words, Shang Ruai took the treasure map. Thank you for your help, sister-in-law. Song Fengji took the child, hugged her tightly in her arms, and looked at her with tears in her eyes. I swear on my life that if I do anything to let down the He family and sister-in-law again, I will be punished by heaven and earth, and I will never be reborn. Shang Ruai turned around and left without saying much. This opportunity was for the sake of the newborn child, but from now on, He would never trust her again. Shang Ruai returned to the yard, and Yuntian explained the situation of Chiyu Villa in detail. You mean, Chiyu Villa is a rising force in recent years? That's right. Yuntian thought for a while. It's almost the same time as the appearance of Tianyan Casino. Shang Ruai frowned slightly. Did you, the Dingwa Palace, really not do those unscrupulous things? Yuntian blinked. You said it was an unscrupulous thing. How could they, the Dingwa Palace, do it? Seeing his expression, Shang Ruai understood. You should go back. Don't let the old princess know about this for the time being, so as not to worry. However, send more people to Tsong's place.
Yes.
Yuntian smiled. After all, there was no noise today. I will ask the guards in the mansion to keep their mouths shut. Shang Ruai nodded and looked at the night outside. Now is the right time. I will leave tonight. After finishing the affairs in the mansion, she could leave with peace of mind, leaving enough ammunition for Yuntian. Remember, if there is anyone who is blind, don't show mercy. Yes. She galloped and finally arrived at the border of Bailing when it was bright. Ah Chung had been to Bailing before. The industries of Dingwa Palace were all over the world, and there were also several manors in the capital of Bailing. Princess, are we going to the manor? Shang Ruai shook her head. Just go to the inn. Their identities must have been clearly investigated by the Li family. If they go to the manor at this time, wouldn't they expose the secret agents set up by He Jinghing here under their noses? Princess, will the Li family collude with the court to catch us all in one fell swoop? Shang Ruai smiled. Who is the Li family? Imperial merchants. Yes, imperial merchants are merchants. Merchants pursue profits. Whoever can bring them the greatest benefits is their friend. Shang Ruai turned her fingers, and an oriental pearl appeared in her palm. Ah Chung looked at the huge oriental pearl, and his eyelids twitched. In the early years, he followed the prince into the palace and had the honor of seeing the treasure that Bailing gave to Emperor Tianshun, which was an oriental pearl of this size. Where did the prince's wife get it? The emperor's private vault was robbed some time ago, and all the treasures disappeared overnight. Now the Dongzhu is in the hands of the crown prince's wife, so the other treasures must have been taken away by the crown prince's wife. Hiss. He seemed to know an incredible secret. After the Li family received the visiting card, the head of the Li family was delighted. Quana, you must entertain Madame Shang well this time. Yes, son knows. Li Quan hesitated for a moment. But what about my sister? The head of the Li family waved his hand and said, It doesn't matter. Your father will talk to her. How can a girl interfere in family affairs? Just say that she is sick and not suitable for seeing guests. Besides, she will get married in half a year. At this time, she should stay in the mansion and wait for her marriage. He looked at Li Quan. Has your mother sent anyone to her in the past few days? She did, but she kicked them out, saying that she was just a concubine and had no right to manage the affairs of her yard. Li Quan looked at his father's face and continued, Dad, the position of the mistress in the mansion has been vacant for many years, and it's time to promote Mother to a co-wife. Only in this way can I, the young master, be at ease. At this moment, a delicate shout came from the door. You are dreaming. Li Xia pushed the door open and stared at Li Quan and said, You and your mother should just give up on the position of the Li family's mistress. As long as I'm alive, she will never be able to become the Li family's mistress. Xia. The head of the Li family frowned and said in a deep voice, Xia, what nonsense are you talking about? Dad, I'm not talking nonsense. Li Xia stepped forward. Jean is just a concubine. What qualifications does she have to become the mistress of the Li family? This matter has nothing to do with you. It's up to your father and your grandfather to decide. The head of the Li family glanced at her. You will be getting married soon. It's better not to worry about the affairs of the mansion. Also, Manager Shang will come tomorrow. You can say that you are sick and cannot see guests. Let your brother go to greet her on your behalf. Li Xia was disappointed when she heard this. She didn't expect that his father had made up his mind from the beginning.
Dad.
Li Xia still wanted to argue, but a look of impatience flashed across the face of the head of the Li family. He winked at the servants at the door, and they understood what he meant. They walked up to Li Xia and whispered, "Miss, please go back to your yard." Li Xia's eyes were full of disappointment. "Dad, are you really going to make Jean your wife?" I said, "From today on, the affairs of the mansion have nothing to do with you. You just stay in the yard and prepare to get married." He waved his hand, and the servants at the door took Li Xia back to the yard. "What are you doing? Let go," she said angrily. "Do you have any rules? How dare you be violent to the master? Believe it or not, I will beat you with a stick. Miss, you'd better take care of yourself. I am just following the orders of the head of the family." He sneered and looked at her with a provocative look. "Didn't you understand what the master said? From now on, the entire Li family belongs to the eldest young master, and it has nothing to do with you." After that, he turned and left. At this moment, the sound of locking the door suddenly came from outside. Li Xia's heart tightened. "What are you doing? Open the door. Open the door." "Miss, the master said that from today on, you will stay in your own yard and wait to get married. When you are ready to get married, he will let you out. Open the door. Open the door." She slammed the door hard, but the only response she got was the whistling cold wind. She fell to the ground, and the maid beside her came forward and helped her up. "Miss, the ground is cold. Get up quickly." Li Xia ignored it and couldn't help but recall what Zhang Ruai once said. "Make yourself strong." Yes, now it seems that she can't rely on anyone. The only way is to make herself strong. She turned to the maid beside her and said, "We must find a way to find grandfather. Only grandfather can save me now." "Miss, the old master went to the temple early yesterday morning and said he would be back at noon tomorrow." "Tomorrow at noon?" She murmured, "It's too late. Everything is too late." The head of the Li family said to Li Quan, "Madame Shang will come tomorrow. You must seize the opportunity. Your grandfather is not at home. Sell more silver and make up for the deficit on the account. Dad, don't worry. Your son will never embarrass you." The head of the Li family patted him on the shoulder, smiled, and said, "In the future, Dad will hand over all of this Li family to you." The next morning, Zhang Ruai came to the Li family. Li Quan was waiting at the door. When he saw the carriage stopped, he hurried to greet her. "Madame Shang, Li's been waiting for you for a long time." Zhang Ruai got off the car, wearing an extremely rare fox fur cloak, snow white, without a single stray hair. She looked behind Li Quan, but there was no trace of Li Xia. She curled her lips slightly. "Where's Xia?" Zhang Ruai didn't know that her smile almost attracted Li Quan's soul. Xiaoyao looked at Li Quan's lecherous look, walked forward and blocked his sight. "Our young lady is asking you a question. Where is Miss Li?" Li Quan finally came back to his senses, smiled and said, "My sister has caught a cold these days and is not feeling well. I'm afraid she can't come out to talk to Madame Shang."
"Sick?
Cold? That's right." Li Quan smiled and made a gesture to invite. "Madame Shang, please come in. I'll lead the way for you." Zhang Ruai nodded. "Let's go." Li Quan saw that she didn't turn around and leave, so he thought that today's matter must be done, and he was very excited. He took her to the main hall, where the head of the Li family was sitting in the main seat waiting. Seeing her son bringing Zhang Ruai in, her face lit up with joy, and she hurried forward. "Madame Shang, please don't blame me for not welcoming you from afar. Master Li is too polite. It's me who feels very sorry for bothering you right after the New Year." "You are so polite," Master Li said with a smile. "You have come from far away, so we must do our best to be hosts. We know that you have a deep relationship with the Xia sister, and she should have entertained you personally today, but Bailing is too cold." The girl said she was not feeling well after returning from Tianshan, and she fell ill just after the New Year. "I see, that is really unfortunate," Zhang Ruai said softly. "But it doesn't matter. You two don't know that I am proficient in medicine and can go and see her. With my medicine, she may get better soon." When the father and son of the Li family heard this, they were shocked. How could this be possible? If they let her go, wouldn't the matter be exposed? "Hey, Madame Shang." The head of the Li family blocked her way with a smile on his face. "Madame Shang, I guess Xia has rested now." If you want to take a look, it won't be too late after we finish talking about business. Did the head of the Li family forget? Shang Ruai said coldly. I won't do the business of Dongju clams with anyone except Xia Xia. The head of the Li family's face suddenly sank. Madam Shang, why don't you listen to my kind advice? There was a hint of impatience in his tone. Don't forget, with your current identity, it seems that you can't leave Tianxuan's place of exile at will. A cold light flashed in Shang Ruai's eyes. She turned around, took a step forward, and her eyes were full of disdain. Yes. Normally I shouldn't leave, but think about it. How can I come and go freely? Could it be that I rely on luck? Her words shocked the head of the Li family. Yes. She was a criminal, but she could come and go freely in Bailing. How could this be done by ordinary people? He smiled again, and before he could speak, Shang Ruai continued. I heard that the young master of the Li family has some special hobbies. Her eyes fell on Li Quan. He owes a lot of money in casinos and underground banks. There are 30,000 taels in the open account. Except for the casino. Shang Ruai looked at the suddenly ugly faces of the Li father and son and said with a smile, it seems that there are still 20,000 taels in the underground bank. The interest of the underground bank is not low. The head of the Li family looked very heavy, looking at his son beside him. He never thought that his son still owed money to the underground bank. At this time, even if he loved the whole Li family, he did not dare to bet on the future of the entire Li family. Is what shopkeeper Shang said true? The head of the Li family can go and check it out in person to see if what I said is true or not. Patriarch Li had a gloomy expression. Since she dared to say that it must be true, he cast his gaze on his son beside him, only to see him swallowing hard, with cold sweat running down his temples. Looking at his expression, he knew without asking that Shang Ruai was not lying. Patriarch Li was so angry that his hands were shaking. He slapped Li Quan hard in the face. Rebellious son.
Kneel down.
Li Quan's legs were shaking. He knelt down suddenly, shaking all over. Dad, someone plotted against my son. I didn't mean it. Patriarch Li looked at Shang Ruai, bowed and said, Shopkeeper Shang, I'm sorry for not bringing up my son well. Shang Ruai smiled. I guess young Master Li was tricked by someone else. Yes, my son is just a little naughty. Patriarch Li forced a smile on his face. But these don't seem to affect our business dealings. Patriarch Li, you don't know, I hate gamblers the most in my life. If this business must be done with young Master Li, then forget it. I was just in a momentary whim. Please return the deposit of 10,000 taels of silver that I paid earlier. What? Not doing business anymore?
How can that be?
Shang Ruai said faintly. Someone will come to your house in the afternoon to ask for the 10,000 taels of silver from you. Master Li, I don't want silver notes. I only want cash. Master Li was disappointed when he heard this. This was simply cutting off the firewood from the bottom of the pot. How could 10,000 taels of cash be raised so quickly? Moreover, the old man in the family will be back in the afternoon. Moving so much cash will definitely attract his attention. He doesn't look down on his son. If he knows, Li Quan will probably lose the qualification to inherit the position of the head of the family. Shang shopkeeper. Master Li, this 10,000 taels of cash should not be a big deal for the huge Li family. Master Li's face twitched and he smiled bitterly. To be honest, I really can't take out 10,000 taels of cash now. The previous 10,000 taels had already paid off part of the gambling debts, and now he could only take out a few hundred taels of silver. Shang Ruai's lips curled slightly. She knew this naturally. That's why she was so confident. The head of the Li family looked at Shang Ruai's expression, gritted his teeth, and said to the servant beside him, What are you standing there for? Why don't you let the young lady come out? The servant nodded and bowed and ran out. Shang Ruai sat back in the chair and picked up the tea on the table. The tea in the cup was cold at this time. She didn't drink it and put it back directly. After a while, Li Xia Xia followed the servant in. When she saw Shang Ruai in the main hall, her eyes lit up. Sister Shang. Shang Ruai looked at her face and said with a smile, It seems that Sister Li's illness is not serious. Now it seems that she has almost recovered. Li Xia saw that her father kept winking at her and smiled. You were not feeling well some time ago, but now I am much better. She walked to the table and looked at the cold tea on the table. How do you serve? You don't even know to change the cold tea for the guests. Xiao Dao, you go. Yes. The head of a Li family looked at his daughter and couldn't help sighing. How great it would be if she was a man. Sister Shang, are you free? I'll take you to the clam farm to have a look. Okay. In her previous life, when she went on a mission, she lurked in a pearl clam base for 3 months. She knew everything about how to raise clams, but going to the clam farm here could be considered as accumulating some new experience. Although Bailing is located in an extremely cold place, their mussel farm has a natural hot spring water. The two streams intersect and the temperature is just right for the growth of Dongju mussels. This is why only the Li family in Bailing can raise Dongju mussels. After the two got on the carriage, Shang Ruai began to close her eyes and rest. Li Xia hesitated for a while and finally spoke. Sister Shang, I have something to ask you. Shang Ruai slowly opened her eyes. Go ahead. Shang Tsung, you told me that the only way to do this is to become stronger. I wonder if Sister Shang can teach me how to become stronger. Shang Ruai smiled. In fact, you already have the answer in your heart, don't you? But I'm just a woman. How can I be in charge of a Li family? So, what if I'm a woman? Shang Ruai sat up straight and laughed coldly. Who said that only men can stand tall in this world? What's the difference between women? But women have to get married eventually. You can find a son-in-law. Shang Ruai smiled. If this man truly loves you, he will understand your difficulties. Even if this man marries you for gold and silver, he will have to restrain himself and be inferior to you when he arrives at the Li family. It is better than marrying a man you have never even met and having to endure his 3 wives and 4 concubines. Li Xia was enlightened when she heard this. She grabbed Shang Ruai's hand and said, Sister Shang, you are right. What should I do next? Shang Ruai thought of the contents of the letter she had investigated earlier, and she whispered, I heard that your grandfather loves you the most. Li Xia nodded. That's right. I heard that your fiancé's concubine already has a son, and you will be his mother as soon as you get married, and he has many concubines in the backyard. Tell this to your grandfather. Since he loves you, he will naturally not be willing to marry you to such a family. She took out another 20,000 taels of silver notes and handed them to her, the balance for the Dongju oyster. After hearing her words, Li Xia felt a chill running up from the soles of her feet to the top of her head. When her father was arranging a marriage for her, he praised her in front of her grandfather, saying that the family was a scholarly family with a bright future. But which scholarly family would allow their child to bring so many concubines into the mansion before marrying a wife? In Bailing, a decent family must marry a wife, and the wife must not have any children for 3 years before they can take a concubine. Otherwise, people would laugh at them if they told others about it. She never expected that her father would marry her into such a den of tigers and wolves. She held the 20,000 taels of silver note in her hand and whispered, I will definitely find a way to cancel the marriage. Shang Ruai took out an envelope from her. All the good things your half-brother has done over the years are written in it. Most of them are set up by your father. You can decide for yourself. Li Xia opened the letter with trembling hands. Every item on it was shocking. She covered her lips and looked at the contents of the letter in disbelief. The maid who died suddenly in my courtyard turned out to be. Hatred burst out of her eyes. The maid was chosen by her mother as a study partner for her when she was alive. They were as close as sisters, but she died tragically. My father said that she had contracted a serious disease, but he didn't expect that she died at the hands of that Li Quan. Could my mother's sudden death that year have anything to do with my father? Shang Ruai shook her head. I don't know about that. Li Xia looked at her. Why are you helping me? Shang Ruai was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Once, there was an old friend who was the daughter of a wealthy businessman. Compared with her, your Li family can only be regarded as a small witch compared to a big witch. She gave her love to the wrong person, her family fell into decline, and she did not have a good end. Now you are very similar to her. I can't help her, but I don't want you to step into the abyss again.
As they were talking, the carriage stopped at the clam farm.
As soon as she got off the carriage, a humid and hot air hit her face. Mississippi. The manager of the clam farm came forward with a smile on his face, looked behind her, and found that the young master had not come, and asked in confusion, "Miss, where is the young master?" Li Xiaxia frowned. "Why? If your young master doesn't come, it's not okay for me to come? Can I do business?" Hearing this, the manager hurriedly waved his hands. No, I don't mean that. It's just that the young master ordered yesterday that a distinguished guest would come to take clams today. I have prepared 10,000 Dongju clams. Lead the way. Li Xiaxia was too lazy to say more to him. The servants in this farm are all Daddy and Li Quan's people. It seems that if they want to control this place in the future, they must replace them all with their own people. Shang Ruai followed to the clam farm and saw that there were hundreds of clam pools in the clam farm, and there were tens of thousands of Dongju clams in each clam pool. No wonder the Li family's business is so big. I don't know how much money these pearl clams will sell for. Miss, look, the pearl clams in this small pond are for the distinguished guests. Shang Ruai looked in the direction of his finger and saw several workers screening the pearl clams in the small pond. The manager smiled flatteringly. Are you satisfied with it? Li Xiaxia took a look and blinked, a little unsure. Although the Li family has been raising pearl clams for many years, she has no research on them. Her father usually gave her some pearls to play with. She has never seen pearl clams many times and has only been to this clam farm twice. Seeing her like this, the manager sneered in his heart. What the young master said was indeed correct. The young lady really didn't know anything. Originally, they did prepare some better Dongju oysters, but just now the eldest young master sent someone to bring a message, asking them to replace all the original Dongju oysters with the worst quality ones. They just screened out a batch of Dongju oysters that were about to die this morning, so he asked people to replace the shells quickly. Li Xiaxia coughed a few times and said to Shang Ruai, "Sister Shang, are you satisfied?" Shang Ruai looked at Manager Lin and said with a smile, "How many years has Manager Lin worked in this clam farm?" "To be honest, I've been working here for 18 years. Shang Ruai nodded. It seems that Manager Lin's eyesight and understanding are too poor. Manager Lin was shocked when he heard it. Could it be that her tricks were seen through? How is it possible? How could she, a little girl, know so much? Why do you say that, distinguished guest? Your clamshells are really pitifully small, and many of them are dead or half dead. Why should I buy such Dongju clams?" Shang Ruai sneered. "Are you selling the garbage from the clam farm to me for 30,000 taels? Yuli family are really good at calculating. The abacus beads are jumping on my face." When Manager Lin heard this, he broke out in a cold sweat on his back. She actually knew it. How is it possible? He smiled awkwardly. "I'll go and see if the servants have installed it wrongly." He didn't wait for Shang Ruai to speak and trotted away. Li Xiaxia's face flushed when she saw this. She never expected that these servants would actually do such a thing. How ridiculous! How dare he fool me? Li Xiaxia said to Shang Ruai, "Sister Shang, I really didn't know it would be like this. If you want to completely control the Li family, you must know everything about the Eastern Pearl Clam." Shang Ruai looked at her and said in a deep voice, "Otherwise, even if you overthrow your half-brother, you will not be able to protect the Li family's assets." Hearing this, Li Xiaxia looked at Shang Ruai with even more admiration and made up her mind. "Sister Shang, if you are willing to help me, I am willing to give you 30% of the Li family's assets." Shang Ruai smiled. "I don't want your Li family's assets. I just want you to give me some Eastern Pearl clams." While speaking, Manager Lin ran back and wiped the sweat from his head. "Dear guest, you are really an expert. If you hadn't discovered it in time, I would have really caused a big disaster today. Those servants took the wrong Eastern Pearl clams and installed them wrongly." Li Xiaxia's eyes were as powerful as knives, and she said angrily, "Why don't you do it again? 10,000 clams. I'm afraid it will take several hours to count them. If you can't even do such a small thing, I think you should resign from your position as manager and go home to retire." Manager Lin was dissatisfied, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. He nodded and agreed. Shang Ruai walked around the clam farm for a few times. Suddenly, when she passed a clam pond, the space that had never made any noise suddenly shook. She stopped abruptly. Was it her illusion just now? She looked at the pond intently, and suddenly, she found that she could see everything at the bottom of the pond clearly. Wherever her eyes went, she could see everything in the Dongju oysters clearly. She blinked, thinking that she was hallucinating. When she concentrated again, she found that many of the Dongju oysters in the pond contained Dongju pearls, and some of them were very large. Sister Shang, what are you looking at? Li Xiaxia looked at the slightly turbid pond water. I can't see this clearly. Can't you see the bottom of the pond? Li Xiaxia shook her head. The water in this pond is so turbid, the pearl clams in it are probably almost dead. Shang Ruai raised her eyebrows slightly. Could this be some special ability? Manager Lin walked up to her and saw her looking at the pearl clams in the pond. He smiled and said, "Dear guest, the clams in this pond are not very good. I just picked a lot of them from other ponds for you. They are all top-notch. You can definitely keep them alive if you buy them back." Shang Ruai smiled. "Can I have the ones from this pond?" "Of course," Manager Lin hurriedly said. "Then I'll tell the servants to pick them for you here, but please don't blame me if they can't be kept alive when I go back." He waved his hand and saw several workers coming over with very long net bags. Shang Ruai thought of the several huge pearls she had just seen and stepped forward quickly. "I just saw that salvaging is very interesting. I also want to try. I wonder if it is possible?" "Of course it is possible, but salvaging requires extremely high arm strength. Even men are very strenuous. You'd better not try it." "No problem, I'll try." She took the net bag and focused her attention on her eyes. The next moment, everything at the bottom of the pond appeared in front of her. She accurately salvaged the pearl oysters with huge pearls inside. Manager Lin saw that she had only fished up some black shells, and a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. He thought he had met some master, but now it seems that he is also a layman who knows nothing. He has been raising pearl oysters for so many years, and he has opened several relatively round pearls in green shells. These black ones have always been empty, but the strength of her arms was really amazing. She could actually lift so many pearl clams in the water. This was not a strength a woman could possess. Shang Ruai looked at the 20 or so pearl clams at her feet with satisfaction. If it was really as she saw, each pearl in the shell was the size of an egg yolk, much larger than the pearls in Emperor Tianquan's private storehouse. Manager Lin arranged for the workers to salvage a lot of pearls from the pond. Shang Ruai found through the clam shells that almost all of them were Dongju pearls. She looked at Manager Lin and said, "Are the ones in this pond going to be thrown away too?" "That's right." Manager Lin stepped forward and said, "For some reason, the water in this clam pond has become more turbid recently. I guess many Dongju clams have died. The eldest young master ordered us to salvage some to see if any Dongju pearls have been produced. We salvaged more than 30 in total, but not a single Dongju pearl was produced. The eldest young master ordered all the Dongju clams in here to be processed clean. I'm afraid this clam pond will be unusable in a few years. Sister Shang, if you want the Dongju clams in this clam pond, I will give you some." "Thank you very much." Since salvaging would take a lot of time, Shang Ruai followed Li Xiaxia to the main hall. When Steward Lin saw them leave, he said to the servants around him, "Stop fishing over there and just fish in this pond." "Steward, didn't they say that the clams in this pond are almost dead?" "TSK, just do what I tell you to do. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Steward Lin said coldly. "I just reminded her that she said she liked the pearl clams here. It has nothing to do with me. You can't blame him if she can't keep them alive." Shang Ruai came to the main hall. Xiao Tao brought some snacks. Shang Ruai was really hungry. She picked up a piece and put it in her mouth. The rich aroma of rice filled her mouth. "Sister Shang, please try this. This is our Bailing's unique rice cake. It is extremely delicious." Shang Ruai nodded. "It has a unique taste. I like it very much." She looked at Li Xiaxia. I haven't seen you for a few days. Your skin is much better than before. I think so too. Li Xiaxia said with a smile. Ever since I took the Yugu Xingji pills given by sister, even the servants around me said that I look more beautiful day by day. She touched her cheek, and her expression suddenly became lonely again. But if no one appreciates it, what's the use of being beautiful? Who said no one appreciates it? Shang Ruai smiled. Although it is said that women dress up to please themselves, it is better to please yourself than to please others. What if no one appreciates it? Being happy is the most important thing. Sister, you are really clear-headed. I envy you. Li Xiaxia felt that her mind suddenly became clear. She had an idea and hurriedly said, Sister, you said before that you could sell this pill to me, but is it true? Of course. She took out a few more porcelain bottles. This time when I came here, even if you didn't mention it, I would have told you about this. These are all jade bone regenerating pills. It's a matter of reciprocity. You gave me more East Pearl clams, so I will give you some in return. She handed her the porcelain bottle. If you really want to do this business, you might as well give these jade bone regenerating pills to some of your good sisters first. I believe they will all become your guests in the future. Great sister, your brain is really unmatched. Those who come before us plant trees, and those who come after us enjoy the shade. This marketing model was just the simplest one in the previous life. After we go back this time, the jade bone regenerating pill will be available. I will be waiting for you at Tianshan anytime. Sister, when I return to the Li family, I will tell my grandfather about this in person. I believe he will definitely support me in doing this business. Li Xiaxia had a smile on her face. Grandfather is the one who loves me the most in the family. Grandfather often said that it would be better if I were a man. At this time, a servant came over. Miss, the East Pearl mussels you want have been loaded. There were dozens of carriages in total. Miss, this East Pearl mussel can only survive for 1 day without water. I added some water in it, and it can last for up to 3 days. Manager Lin whispered, if it has not entered the pool water after 3 days, the East Pearl mussels will definitely die. What he meant by this was that if it exceeded 3 days, more than 10,000 East Pearl mussels would die, and it had nothing to do with them. Shang Ruai came to the carriage. She opened the big barrels behind each carriage and took a look and put all the East Pearl mussels into the space without anyone noticing. Ah Chung stepped forward and pulled the reins of the first car. Master, even if you whip faster, you can't get back to the mansion in 3 days. It doesn't matter. These Dongzhu oysters will not die. At this time, those Dongzhu oysters were already in the spiritual spring pool in the space. Shang Ruai smiled and said to Manager Lin, Thank you, Manager Lin. When she opened the barrel to check just now, she found that all the Dongzhu oysters in the barrel seemed to be oyster shells in the turbid pool water. If the vibration of the space is a sign, then the Dongzhu oysters in the turbid pool water must be of the best quality. You are welcome. Manager Lin smiled and was secretly happy in his heart. It seems that she didn't find that the Dongzhu oysters were replaced by him. If the young master knew that he sold some waste materials for so much money, he would definitely reward him heavily. Thinking of this, his smile on his face became even brighter. Shang Ruai originally wanted to say goodbye, but Li Xiaxia insisted on hosting a banquet. It was hard to refuse such a kind invitation, so Shang Ruai had to follow her back to the Li family. At this time, the old patriarch of the Li family had returned. Miss, the old master is looking for you. Grandfather is back. Li Xiaxia turned to Shang Ruai with some excitement and said, Sister Shang, would you please come with me to see grandfather? Shang Ruai nodded. Presumably the old man had received the news. When the two came to the main hall, Li Quan was kneeling on the ground, with several bloodstains on his clothes on the back. Hit me hard. The old man was so angry that his beard was shaking. He pointed at Li Quan, who was kneeling on the ground, and said, How could our Li family produce such a useless thing like you? You dare to go gambling. Losing 30,000 taels in gambling is not enough. You owed 20,000 taels to the underground money house. You are not worth 50,000 taels of silver even if you are sold. I might as well beat you to death and put an end to it all. Seeing this, the head of the Li family hurried forward and said, Dad, forget it. Quanner has realized his mistake and will never do it again. Hearing this, the old patriarch waved him away and said, You are also a coward. You were blinded by a woman and raised such a waste. You also want to hand over the Li family to him. You want me off to death. He looked at the servants whipping Li Quan's back with whips, but he felt that his anger was not relieved. He simply took the whip and whipped it a few times himself. The old man used all his strength, and Li Quan rolled on the ground. Shang Ruai heard Li Quan's shouting from afar. Now she came to the main hall and saw the actions of the old patriarch of the Li family. Her eyebrows twitched involuntarily. Grandfather. Li Xia walked forward, looked at Li Quan kneeling on the ground, ignored him, turned around and said to her grandfather, You are so old. You are not afraid of being tired. This kind of thing. Just let the servants do it. She winked at the housekeeper beside her, and the housekeeper Li hurried forward and took the whip from his hand. Seeing that she had no intention of comforting him, the head of the Li family could not help but feel dissatisfied and secretly glared at her. Your grandfather is in poor health, and you don't know how to comfort him. How dare you say that, Xia? Why don't you let this waste you gave birth to make me less angry? As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and picked up a feather duster and hit Li Quan hard. Li Xia did not stop him much. Until the feather duster was about to be beaten bald, the old master breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, his eyes fell on Shang Ruai at the door, and the old man of the Li family could not help but be stunned. This is... Li Xia hurriedly walked to Shang Ruai and said with a smile, Grandfather, Sister Shang is my good sister. She came here today to buy the Dongzhu clams from our family. Your last name is Shang? The old man frowned slightly. Not lying? Shang Ruai smiled. Grandpa, I am just a businessman. There is no need to change my name. I am Shang Ruai, and I am from Tianshan. The old patriarch looked at her for a long time and finally said nothing. He just nodded, but the look in his eyes when he looked at her was always full of inquiry. Grandfather, why are you looking at Sister Shang like this? Nothing, it just reminds me of a friend. Miss Shang looks a bit like him. Li Xia couldn't help laughing when she heard it. Grandfather, your friends are probably all old men. Our Sister Shang is as beautiful as a flower. Are you old and blind? The old masterly smiled, and seeing his granddaughter laughing, he reached out and touched his forehead. You stinky girl. You don't look like a lady at all. Hearing this, Li Xia playfully stuck out her tongue. Shang Ruai saw this scene and couldn't help but feel envious. For her, who had no relatives to love her in 2 lives, this scene in front of her was something she couldn't even dream of. Li Quan, who collapsed on the ground, glared at Li Xia with gritted teeth. He was obviously the future heir of the Li family, but his grandfather never gave him a good look. Instead, Li Xia, who was about to get married, was the only one who was loved by the old man. He looked at her fiercely. Soon, as long as she got married into that den of tigers and wolves, she, Li Xia, would not live long without his help. The old man looked at Shang Ruai with a warm smile on his face. Excuse me, Miss Shang. The family education is not strict, and a borer was raised. Shang Ruai shook her head. Old man, you are wrong. If the family education is not strict, how could the Li family produce a girl as well-behaved, smart, and clever as Xia? It can be seen that there is no problem with the family education of the Li family. If there really is a rat-eyed person in the Li family, it can only be his own problem. When Li Quan heard this, he was furious.
What did she mean by this?
Wasn't she just saying that he was a rat-eyed person? Did she have to be so purposeful in making indirect accusations? This is the Li family. Do you have the right to speak? He endured the pain, stood up from the ground, and said with bared teeth, You are just an outsider. How can you interfere in our Li family affairs? Get out of here. Before he finished speaking, a bamboo pole came over and hit him right on the mouth. There were still a few chicken feathers stuck on the bamboo pole, which was the feather duster that had just been beaten bald.
Ouch! Ouch!
Li Quan fell to the ground in pain. You unruly thing. Miss Shang is a distinguished guest in our house. What are you shouting here like? With your character, I will never hand over the Li family to you. The old patriarch of the Li family flushed, and his fingers couldn't help trembling. At this moment, he suddenly felt breathless. His face gradually turned blue and purple, and he fell backwards. Everyone finally managed to hold him up, and Li Xia shouted loudly, "Doctor! Go and get a doctor." The old master of the Li family had a very serious heart disease, and if it broke out, it would be extremely dangerous. The housekeeper was about to turn around and leave when he was stopped by the master of the Li family. "Stop, master. What do you want? There's no need to call a doctor." The master of the Li family stood in the middle, looking at the old master on the bed with a steady look, and said in a low voice,
No, no.
"My father's illness is not a day or two, and the heart disease can't be cured. It's better to. As long as his father is alive, he can't become the real head of the family, can't completely control the Li family, and even want to raise his beloved woman from a concubine to a wife. It's impossible, not to mention money. Even if he becomes the head of the family, he still relies on the monthly salary to live every month. If his father dies, everything in the Li family will be completely his, and he can do whatever he wants." He looked at the old man on the bed with cold eyes. Li Quan on the ground was overjoyed when he heard this. Grandfather is dying, how great! His mother can finally become the mistress of the Li family, and he is also the legitimate young master of the Li family. In the future, he will no longer be criticized by others for being a. As for the stinky girl Li Xia, her good days are over. Li Xia was shocked when she heard this and said angrily, "Dad, are you crazy? That's my grandfather." "Xia, no need to say more." The head of the Li family looked at her. "Just prepare to get married." He looked at Shang Ruai again. Shopkeeper Shang must know what to say and what to do. Shang Ruai stood up and smiled. "Of course I know." Li Xia heard this, and disappointment flashed in her eyes. Li Quan pulled the bleeding corner of his lips and laughed. "Ha ha ha, old thing. You are finally going to die." Shang Ruai stood up with a smile on her face, walked to the bed, took out a cloth bag from her sleeve pocket, opened it in the puzzled eyes of everyone, and found several silver needles inside. She inserted the silver needles into the old master's Naguan and Shenmen acupoints, and at the same time, took out a pill and put it into his mouth. Seeing the shocked look of Li's father and son, Shang Ruai smiled and said, "As a doctor, it is natural to cure diseases and save lives." "What? Doctor?" Li's father and son's eyes widened. How? How is this possible? She is actually a doctor." Li Xia was shocked and tears welled up in her eyes. Yes, Sister Shang must be an extremely powerful doctor to be able to develop the jade bone regenerating pill. At least, she must be very proficient in pharmacology. She thought Shang Ruai would just sit back and watch and leave. Fortunately, the head of the Li family never thought that Shang Ruai's medical skills were so good. A fierce look flashed in his eyes. If his father was cured by her and woke up, he would definitely be driven out of the house. Then he would have nothing. He made up his mind and picked up the bolt and smashed it on Shang Ruai's head. At this moment, a figure stood in front of Shang Ruai. Ah Chung grabbed the hand of the head of the Li family and bent it backwards. He could no longer hold the bolt in his hand, and it fell to the ground. It hurts. How dare you attack my young lady? I think you are tired of living." Ah Chung finished speaking, exerted force on his hand, and with the arm of the head of the Li family broke.
Acheng.
Shang Ruai put away the silver needle, and seeing that the old man's face gradually returned to normal, she turned around and said, "This is the family affair of the Li family. We are just outsiders, so it's better not to interfere too much." Li Xia came to the bedside. "Sister Shang, my grandfather. It's fine." As soon as she finished speaking, she heard a long sigh from the old man on the bed. Grandfather. The old man slowly opened his eyes and said to Li Xia, "Grandfather is fine." He sat up, bowed to Shang Ruai, and said, "Thank you, Miss Shang. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would be. He set his eyes on the father and son of the Li family not far away. I'm afraid I would be killed by these two. Old man, don't be angry. Shang Ruai said softly. You have a heart disease, and you should avoid excessive mood swings and excessive worry. She was glad that she came to the Li family. It was she who asked someone to pass the news to the old man, which indirectly caused his heart disease to attack. If something happened to him today, she would really feel guilty. Yes, grandfather, please don't be angry. You almost scared me to death, just now. Li Xia's eyes were red. If it weren't for Sister Shang, I don't know what would have happened. She looked at her father and half-brother not far away, her tone full of uncontrollable anger. Why is it worth getting angry with them? Seeing this, the head of the Li family and Li Quan knew that the situation was hopeless, and they all knelt on the ground and begged. Dad. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I will never dare to do it again. Just now my son was blinded by lard and did such a beastly thing. Please forgive my son this time. Yes, grandfather. Please forgive Dad this time. Li Quan knelt on the ground. His head was broken, for fear that the old man would